Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined, as always, by my brother, Dagan Moriarty. Dagan, how are you today, my friend?
Oh, hi. What does your shirt say? It's killing me. I need to know. I can't read the top word.
It's bartending is not a crime.
Bartending.
And it's from Polite Provisions, which is my friend Eric's old bar that he actually just sold in San Diego. But it had something to do with, like, I don't know. It had something to do with like how it was like some movement about how the hoops they had to jump through or something to get licenses or do all these kinds of things. I think that's like where it comes from. Yeah.
All right.
So it's like skateboarding is not a crime.
I immediately thought of Eric Castro. I knew it had to do something. As soon as I saw the word bartending, I knew.
Yeah. Bartending is not a crime. Yeah. I love that. I love this shirt.
Good shit.
Yeah. And it says polite as fuck on the bottom of it, which was they're saying. But you can't really see that.
Skateboarding is not a crime? Was that the original not a crime thing?
Yeah, definitely.
That wasn't derived from something else. So skateboarding started that.
I would almost certainly assume
just
that it was
like
skateboarding
everything.
is not a crime is what it started as. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the show, Dig. Everything well in your life?
Yeah, everything's okay. I just got rejected from a job application.
Rejected
so quickly.
Oh, geez.
I've had ones that were same day rejections, which feel bad, but this one I noticed today on LinkedIn, and I was like, you know what? I'm kind of a shoe-in for this. So it hurt. The pain was extra acute because I just felt like, all right, this is a job for me. I was rejected within an hour.
Wow.
And I don't know. Listen, I'm going to say something controversial.
Patrick Ewing throwing the ball into smacking the ball out of the air into the seventh row.
I don't know. Even you guys aren't really on the job market. You all have jobs. So I don't know how familiar you are with this idea. But now you all have jobs. Yeah, I should air quote it. I'll triple air quote. I'll throw the extra finger in.
Yeah, the triple air quote's nice.
And it's just that I'm just saying that because I'm jealous of you guys. But the flavor of the month, or I guess this has been going on for a minute, is that you fill out a survey with your application saying whether you're disabled, whether you're a veteran, and what racial persuasion you are.
Yep.
And all of that. And I always do it. And I don't actually think it's right to do. And it's, of course, it's optional. You don't have to do it. But for some stupid reason, I always fill it out. And I think because I'm a 40-year-old white man, I don't know. I think I'm 40? Getting profiled in a negative way.
40-year-old white man? Is that
Did
what
I say 40 or 49?
Yeah. You're 49. Okay. I just want to make sure we were talking within the realm.
I'm pushing 50. And I think... I don't know if it's working against me or not. And I don't mean to sound arrogant, like give me, this job. I should be able to get every job. I don't expect the jobs handed to me, but I wonder how much it has to do with it. Especially a job that just instinctually seems so appropriate for me. I'm like, am I not getting the job because? And now, is this how it feels? I mean, 30 years ago, this wouldn't have been. It would. You would have been
a slam dunk. You would have gotten put at the top of the pile.
I just don't know. Now this is.
I hate that shit. I hate it. No, I think of course it's definitely hurting you. That's why I will say this is that doesn't help you.
Yeah, I know.
And that's everyone. But the Supreme Court rules soon. I think it only has to do with colleges, but affirmative action is going to be illegal in the United States soon.
Is that right?
Definitely. Yep.
Oh, I didn't know about this.
So I think private companies can still do whatever they want, but colleges can no longer once the ruling comes down, colleges can no longer ask about race during admissions, which is the way it should be.
I understand it from both perspectives. I honestly really do. But yeah, sometimes it makes your head spin, especially a job opportunity like this where I was like, yeah, this is everything. My resume directly applies to this opportunity. And then you get rejected within 45 minutes.
You were a black lesbian. You would already have that job. Anyway, I'm glad that you're here with us today, Dagan. Thank you for being here, Chris.
It's good to be here.
Reagan, it's good to have you, my friend. You have something to say.
I don't know. As the swiftness is, I remember the swiftness. I remember the
hurts.
swiftness happening. It was it's fun. I remember I got rejected from a job. I think in I think a half hour.
Wow.
Like after, and that was like back when people weren't really on their computers that much. So like that was like a really like intense
It hurts.
one. I was like, bro, chill.
Did you put Puerto Rican on yours? And they were like, absolutely not.
No, I did. I would always do Hispanic, whatever.
Hispanic.
I did hear once that like, cause I applied to, oh my God, I can't remember what I think it was like some video game store, but it wasn't like a GameStop or like it was like one of these like smaller ones. I think it was called Play and Trade or something. I think that's what it was called. And I remember I knew people who knew the people who worked there, and I applied and I got rejected. I think like within the week. And I heard that it was because the guy who was in charge of hiring couldn't, for the life of him, pronounce my last name.
Oh, it's not that hard. Come on.
I know, it's like
that's easy.
You would think that it's a pretty standard name.
Yeah.
But like I can't even explain to you how many times I've got like Maldonado or like just like all these random extra syllables thrown in there. I'm like, sound it out.
Not even trying.
It is phonetically accurate. It is phonetically the way it's written.
It's not tricky.
Never ever underestimate how illiterate people are. That's what I've been learning. First of all, everyone is getting more illiterate. The American school systems are horrible.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm always shocked by that too. To me, because people are like, you're a good writer. And I'm like, isn't everyone? Because you kind of have, but then you realize, no.
No. And laziness.
And to be like, how do you even live? What'd you say, Dave?
And don't discount people's laziness. That's the other thing. They don't even try.
Yeah.
They just see a word and they just automatically feel lethargic. Like, I can't do this, They just give up.
Twitter's full of illiterate people.
Yeah, it's and stupid people.
Which is amazing because it's a whole platform based around writing. And everyone's illiterate. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's a little scary because that's why I could see like Maldonado and all that. You could see like people that don't really read very well being like, oh, okay, like because we have Moriarty. I would argue is a much more complicated last name to say than Maldonado.
You would think so. Anyway.
And they butcher that every which way too. I don't even talk to anyone anymore, so I don't have to hear it. So, Dustin Furman, executive producer, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you today?
Hello, I'm back. I don't know, 3 weeks in a row. I think that means third co-host of the show at this point. I don't know. Lock it in. Maybe something to think about. But Dagan, I'm very glad. I've had my fair share of applying for jobs and job applications and all that, but never ended up having a real job just because my only other job was basically through knowing somebody that I got the job at my old video editing post. And so I don't know, it's horrifying to even think about. So I feel bad. I feel bad for anyone having to apply because you're really putting yourself out there. Because dude, a 30-minute hour rejection, that's it's not supposed to be personal, but it's always going to feel personal no matter what. It's so stupid too. Some of these companies, I remember this didn't happen to me, but for Holly, when she was in college, she was trying to get a part-time job. She applied at Dunkin' Donuts. Okay. Making coffee. They're not even making the donuts at this store.
No.
They sent her an email and said she was not qualified. Like, what kind of qualifications do you need to make coffee? Like, not even advanced coffee. You're just, I guess they do some stuff there now, but this was years ago. So yeah, it's something I'm not envious of.
You need a PhD.
Yeah, apparently.
To make a munchkin.
Dude, they're not even making them there. They're just defrosting them. They don't make them in any of the ones. Yeah. None of the Butler shops actually make donuts.
Yeah, they just heat them up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, my friends, it's good to be here with you today. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. Dustin, by the way, this is not 3 episodes in a row. You were not here last week. Just wanted to double check.
Right.
I was like, is that true?
It feels like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right.
You recorded more quickly than usual. Yeah.
Oh, that is it. It was the schedule.
So stand down.
I will stand down, but I'll just something about it.
I'm glad because I felt bad for not noticing, but you're right. It was Gene and Jeff.
Right.
Last week. Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed immediately. That's why I went and looked. And I was like, that doesn't sound right. My friends, I've sent all 3 of you a link to a Google Drive folder. I'm going to go first this week because I'm doing something visual and I want to get it right out of the way. The show is very popular on YouTube, and so I thought it would be fun to do something a little more visual. Although for people listening to the audio versions, we can still have fun here and you'll see what I'm talking about. We'll explain everything. I want you to just open the folder and don't click on anything yet.
Okay.
Wait,
where is 16 PNGs to your email? I sent it.
Oh, I see what this is. Okay. Yes.
So no one.
I didn't get an email.
Click on anything.
It's going to be
no one click.
Chris, it's going to be in your updates folder, not your primary folder. If you're using Gmail.
Updates?
Don't you have the 4 tabs at the top? Maybe?
I've never seen an update folder.
Oh. Well,
yeah, you don't have it?
No, I don't
find it. You didn't find the link? Because I can just send it to you manually.
Yeah, just send it to me.
All right, let's see.
What are you up to, Moriarty?
All right, so see if that link works for you.
Yeah.
What are you up to here, my friend?
Don't click on anything yet. Make sure they're ordered 1 through 16, by the way.
Oh.
All right. So here's...
Oh, mine are reversed. Okay.
Yeah, so here's what we're going to do. I had this idea for a while, and this is the perfect combination, I think, of people to do this with. I want to show you a series of 16 logos from the professional sports in the United States, the 4 professional leagues. And I want you guys to tell me what team they are. And that's literally all I want to know. Did you guys follow my instructions, by the way, to bring whiteboard or something to write on?
I have paper and a Sharpie.
Yeah, paper, like something you could just write on that you can hold up.
Yeah.
And then flip over and so on and so forth. You're all ready with that?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, excellent. So I don't know how this is going to go. I'm very curious to know what everyone thinks of these. I will say, all right, so let me explain everything. Okay. I've got 16 logos from a combination of the NHL, the NBA, and the NFL. I didn't go to the MLB because Dagan would know those for sure. And he might know some of these other ones too. I don't know. But these are professional teams in the NFL, the NBA, or the NHL. So the 3 other big sports franchises in the United States. And I just want to see, like, any sports fan, like general sports fan, would easily be able to name all 16 of these.
Sure.
No problem whatsoever. So there's nothing obscure about what I'm about to show you guys, unless you don't know sports. And this is why I want to see how everyone does. So we're going to go through these one by one. Dustin, I've named them 1, 2, 3, whatever, 16 .png.
Yeah.
And they're all pretty high res. You might even be able to find better images if you want, but you can just put it on the screen when we talk about it. And then we're going to, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So make little timestamps. All right. I think this will be fun. Everyone let me know what you think if you think this is fun. I don't know. Maybe
we're going to share the logo with the audience too, in other words.
Right, exactly. It'll be on the screen. I'm going to describe it for the audio listeners. Okay. Any audio listener that knows sports is immediately going to know each logo by the description of it. And we'll go from there. Are you guys ready to begin?
This is public humiliation. You know that. Let's do it.
I don't think, hold on a second. Dustin said the same thing, and I am so surprised by that. This seems fun to me. Like if someone were to present to me, like, here's 20 anime waifus or something, I'd be like, I have no fucking idea. This is hysterical. Let's try it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything humiliating about this whatsoever.
It's
interesting that you guys both went down that road. It says, well, maybe you shouldn't start being men and watch hockey. All right. Let's start with number 1. My friends, we have here maybe the most iconic logo in its respective sport. More than 100 years old this logo is.
Wow.
And I'm curious if you know what team this is. This is a red C outlined by blue.
Okay.
And I'm curious, Dustin Furman, what is this logo?
I need to write it down, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what we should do. Everyone write down your logo. That's what, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Write it down.
Everyone write it down.
Oh man, there's going to be a lot of silence.
That's okay.
Oh,
and what are you writing, like a fucking paragraph? Just write the name of the team down. I
gotta write a whole essay describing my emotions.
I guess you gotta write it big enough, right?
Did I spell this right?
No looking up.
Oh, I'm not looking it up.
No cheating.
A word, because I'm that illiterate, as we were saying earlier.
All right, so we have a red C, as you can see on the screen if you're watching, a red C outlined by blue with white. Famous logo. Absolutely dead famous logo. Dustin, I'm curious what you think it is.
Chiefs.
Incorrect.
It has an H in the center. There's a C and an H.
There is, and that is actually relevant. But we'll get into that shortly. Dustin, Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. What is this logo?
Yeah, so I'm gonna guess the Chicago Horsies.
The Chicago Horsies. Nope.
I guess I should make up a name if I don't know what it is. I'm gonna do.
Well,
that
you don't
next
have to
time.
make up a name. I mean, you might know some of these. I don't know. Dagan, what is this?
I know the team, but I don't know the city.
Right. It is the Canadians. It's the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh.
Why is there an
I'm
H
glad
in
I
this
don't know it.
logo?
It's something with French, but their nickname is the Habs.
It's a horrible.
Oh.
So this has been their logo for about like 100 years. This logo. I would argue. I don't think any hockey fan would dispute that this is maybe with the Red Wings and the Blackhawks like the most iconic logo.
Yeah.
In all of hockey. So I wanted to start there. Okay. So Dagan's got one.
You're not going to rate me half for not knowing the city?
No, that's close.
No, I think that's okay. I think Canadians is okay.
Oh, you guys are sweet.
I'm not going to get crazy with it, you know?
All right.
So Dagan's got 1 point. Very good. All right. Second logo.
All right.
We have here what clearly is some sort of bird, blue and gray with a green eye.
Oh, this is
long, elongated. What is this logo?
All right, let me look.
Wait, are you looking? What are you looking at?
No, I'm just looking at the logo.
Oh, okay. I was like,
I'm just looking at the logo because you guys didn't share it. Oh, I know this one. Oh, I don't know if they're still in this city. Oh well, whatever. I think they are.
All right. This is fun. Dustin, what is your answer?
The Seahawks. Seattle
That's right.
Seahawks.
That's right. Chris, what do you have?
I wrote the Eagles.
The Eagles. That's close. That's close. That's a good guess, but it's not the Eagles. It's Dagan.
That would be the best guess if that's incorrect. I said the Seattle Seahawks. I didn't know they were still in Seattle. The professional sports team not owned by Nintendo.
They are. Yep, they are owned. Who owns the Seahawks?
They co-own the Mariners, I think.
Oh, they co-own. Okay.
There's like 10 different ownership entities, but they're one of them.
All right. So all right. So we have that one. I think that might be the easiest one in here. Let's go on to number 3, my friends.
Okay.
Number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty iconic logo.
No idea what that is.
Wondering what you think it might be. Pretty iconic logo. Wondering what it might be. For people out there, it is a circle spinning kind of kinetically with offshoots off of it, gray and red with black trim.
I don't know what that is.
All right. Dustin, do you have an answer?
Hold on 1 second.
Are you finishing your penis?
Yeah, I was trying to draw it only instead of the lines, it's 2 penises. Maybe the video can see this. Cyclones.
Good guess, but not right.
Yeah. I knew it wasn't, but it's something close to that.
Chris.
All right. So I wrote, it reminds me of Sonic Adventure. Because I really have no idea.
Yeah, I'll give you a half point for that.
All right, good. Yeah.
Oh. What about the cyclone penises? Come on.
By the way, should you be drawing penises on a video that's going to be on YouTube, or are we going to get in trouble for that? Is that okay?
You're fine.
Dude, a drawn penis.
It didn't look like a very convincing one.
Yeah.
All right,
dude, by the end, I want to get demonetized. That's how much better they're going to get.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
over the course of this game, they're going to get more and more photorealistic to the point where you're wondering if it's not just a photo.
Right.
Dave, what is this logo?
Guys, clearly that's the Detroit Motown Vinyls. My God, I can't even read that.
I like the microphone.
Writing.
Is that
correct?
No, that is the Portland Trailblazers.
Oh,
the NBA team, the only professional team in Oregon. Portland Trailblazers. That's been their logo for many decades.
What the fuck is that?
I don't know.
No idea.
That's what it looks like to blaze a trail. You might not know. Because you've never blazed a trail before. None of us have blazed a trail.
Reminds me of the logo. It's like it reminds me slightly that. Remember on Community? Did anyone watch the show Community where they get the logo as the asshole?
Oh yeah.
This is some kind of weird circular.
E pluribus anus.
Yeah.
I wonder which one came first.
My friends, let's go to the next one.
Right.
Number 4.
Okay.
We have here a plane.
Oh, I know this.
Surrounded by a blue circle and a gray circle over what appears to be a red something. What could it be?
I just learned this one a week ago.
What'd you say?
By chance, I just learned this one a week ago.
Oh, interesting. All right, so well, is everyone ready to go?
No.
Give me a second.
Okay. This is actually maybe one of my favorite logos in that respective sport.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it is.
It's a good one. I'll take another look at it. Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a gray plane in a white circle, surrounded by a blue circle, surrounded by a gray circle, over a red object of some sort.
Okay.
All right. Are we ready to go? Let's start with you, Dake.
Okay. This is the Winnipeg Jets.
Very well done. That's incredible. How did you discover this?
I was just recently telling you, I think on Knockback, Graydon and I were watching hockey highlights during the Grizzlies-Lakers game, and I had never seen the logo before. And I was like, what is that? I don't know. It must be relatively new.
Yeah, they came back in
years.
2011, so it's been in the last 10 years or so.
Okay. Yeah, so that's how, just completely by chance, or I would have never known that.
Very well done. Winnipeg Jets. Chris, what was your guess?
Your guess was the Boston Stealth Bombers.
Yeah, that's a nice name.
I like
maybe
it.
A lacrosse team of some sort or something like that. Not correct, though. Dustin.
Their logo is clearly a reference to the Christian home entertainment for children, JJ the Jet Planes.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Anyone remember that? JJ I think that was like something you got at the Christian bookstore. I was a vegetarian myself, but
that might have been a CBN joint.
So the red object that the Jet's flying over is a Canadian flag. It's hard for you to tell that if you don't know like what it is, like the red maple leaf. But I love that logo. That's one of my favorite crests in the NHL. All right.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So Dagan, you got a point there. Dagan's got 3 points. Dustin's got 1. Chris, we're waiting for you to get on the board.
Don't worry.
Let's move on.
I got this next one.
I think you might. Let's move on to it.
I might.
Number 5.
All right.
We have here a green horned creature with a stern look on its face. Sort of cream trappings, some white trim. Beautiful logo, in my opinion. I love logo designs. They're so fun.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of symbolism in this one, too, which I'll point out that you might not see initially as well. That might have even helped you a little bit. Dustin, let's go to you. What do you say here?
Just wrote stags.
Stags. That's a good answer, but it's not right.
Okay.
Chris, what do you think this logo is?
So I think this is the Green Bay Meese.
The Green Bay Meese. Close. You are very close. What's weird is that you're in the right state, actually. Dagan?
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm still writing. Oh, my God. I can't spell. Is this... I feel like I should know this one. Is this the Minnesota Bucks?
It's the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks.
Milwaukee.
I don't know what to do with that because you if you just said Bucks, I might have given it to you, but the Minnesota Bucks.
I didn't know it. I saw the M at the bottom of the logo.
Yeah, the M is like that's what I was going to talk about. It was like there's a little M there, which you can kind of see.
That's a half point, I think.
If he would have just written Bucks, though, you would have given it to him.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
but I
just
think
give him the point.
Just give him the point.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm
going to give him a half point because he said Minnesota. That's not true. Minnesota Timberwolves would be there.
It's a beautiful logo. I really
it
like
is. It's awesome. It really is an awesome logo.
That's a goodie.
All right. Dagan, 3.5 points. Not so bad. All right. Number 6. I wonder what you guys think of this logo.
Oh,
I don't even know what I'm fucking looking at.
Yeah, this is a fever dream.
I had just seen this recently and was studying it, oddly. I don't know the city, but I do know what it is. Because it's two images. I don't know if you guys see it.
Mm-hmm. I do. But it's just because I've looked at this logo many times over the years. So
this is a really sharp logo. I really like this one.
That yellow circle. I shouldn't say that.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say it looks like a vaguely autistic Pac-Man.
Oh, you're right. I didn't see it that way.
Because the mouth is kind of high.
Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to unsee that.
It's like the Chicago Bulls logo being a crab if you put it upside down, like a perfect crab.
Which is all right. I like this without the yellow. All right, I don't.
Dave, what is this logo?
This is the Wild.
Yep.
Is that on camera?
That's on camera.
But I don't know the city.
It's Minnesota.
Oh, that's Minnesota.
Ironically. Chris, what did you guess?
So I shouldn't get the point for this, but I did write wild, but that's just my phrase. That's just what I say.
Oh,
and there are
did
trees.
You really write it? Did you really write that?
Crazy.
I did.
Did you really write that?
I did, but I didn't know what else to say. I don't know if that counts. That shouldn't count.
I'm definitely counting that. Definitely counting that. Chris is on the
That's
board.
crazy.
I mean, that's unbelievable. You should. That's like getting a hole in one, basically.
That's like 2. I think we should give Chris 2 for that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, there's like what 20-something thousand words or whatever. It's like Chris just randomly wrote down the one word.
Well, that is the word I would say. You know what I mean?
Do you guys see the
Wild.
cat, like the silhouette of the cougar in there?
Yeah, it's like a silhouette of I always thought it was like a some bear or something. I have no idea, but yeah,
bear,
it's facing
actually.
left. The star is its eye.
The star is the eye, and the river is the mouth. But that sun, that sort of golden, what do you call that? The magic hour sun. It really kind of messes with the silhouette of the head.
Yeah, like I wonder what it would look like without that.
You don't need it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
All right,
Dustin, what did you guess?
These are the dank trees.
Dank trees. I love it.
Yeah, man. Let's go.
The trees are a nice little hint because, Minnesota heavily wooded. Timberwolves play in their building too, so it's kind of like a little ode to that. I think I love it. It's so funny, Dagan, that you know the most difficult logos I've shown so far are the ones you've gotten.
Yeah, I don't even. Is that NBA or NHL?
That's NHL.
That's NHL.
NBA is the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, I just I'm a logo file. I like the artwork. By the way, can I just say the NHL has the least cohesive set of logos? It's a friggin' mess.
No,
There's
I agree
no
with you.
standard.
No, I agree. I hate the new. I mean, Micah just like rolls her eyes when I say most of the things I say now, but I go on and on. The Kraken, the Seattle Kraken, the expansion team are in the playoffs. I'm like, this logo fucking sucks. Like I'm like, and they have the cool crest of the anchor. I don't know if you saw, they have the anchors on their arm, and I'm like, that should have been the logo.
Yes.
Yeah, like why wasn't that?
Yeah, because
it
just looks like a sinister S, right? With the red eye,
with like an
something.
eye. Yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah,
I agree with you. The NHL logo is like the newer. That's why I love the Canadiens logo and the more classic logos, because they're totally different. Once you get to like the Nashville Predators, the Minnesota Wild, they both come in around the same time in the late 90s.
Nashville Predators.
Yeah, like I actually almost I don't think I put the Predators in here.
Name didn't age well.
Yeah, they didn't age well. They're also really good, which is what's so funny. So they have like this hardcore fan base, but
you might know me. I'm a Predator.
I'm a Predator. Yeah, I play for the Predators.
We got a whole team of Predators.
All right, my friends, let's move on to number 7.
All right,
Professional predators.
Yeah.
We have here a logo.
Oh.
It's for this team. It's the only logo this team has ever had. Interestingly enough, never anything else but this. It's a blue, like a dark navy blue with it's like a flame, like some sort of flaming something with blue flames coming off of it, red trim, light blue trim, 3 red stars, which are really indicative of what this logo is if you think about it, if you know it. And some sort of, I don't know what that is in the middle. Sword?
All right.
Dustin, what is this?
Titans.
Right. Very well done.
Oh.
The Tennessee Titans.
Hey, well,
The NFL team, AFC South. So I wanted to put this logo in for one reason, Dave, because you said you were a big fan of logos.
Yeah.
This logo to me is by a mile the worst professional logo in the United States. Like this logo fucking sucks. Like I hate this logo so much.
I'm not a fan.
I can't even believe it. Like, and that's why they came in the late 90s and this has always been their logo. And I'm like, dude, you're called the Titans. Do you have any idea how many cool things you can do? Now they're trying to make the Tennessee flag with the stars because that's like their thing.
Oh, is that what that is? Okay.
All that, and the T is also the sword and all that. And I get all that, but I hate this logo. I hate it. I hate it so much. Chris, what did you guess for this?
I guessed the Temecula Teslas.
Ooh.
Temecula.
Sponsored.
Go ahead.
Sponsored.
What?
Dagan, what did you guess for this?
I had a similar train of thought to Chris. I said the Musk Teslas because they stole that T. I don't have the Tesla T in front of me, but that's pretty damn close.
It's the Tesla T, 100%.
That's interesting. This predates the Tesla T, so they stole that from.
No, yeah, for sure.
Them.
Yeah, I mean that wouldn't surprise me.
And it's like you're stealing from the worst logo. I mean, there's no doubt in the NFL this is the worst logo, but I think you can make the case that that's the worst logo in all of sports.
Yeah,
dude, the Browns logo is a helmet. It's
it's
better than this. Yeah. It's literally an orange helmet.
Yes.
Yeah. Constellation is brought to you by BetterHelp, an effective, affordable, and accessible brand of online therapy you can try for yourself right now at betterhelp.com/constellation. If you're hearing this, you're either a person, an animal who cannot understand me, or perhaps a space alien receiving this signal from afar. But let's assume you're that first thing, a person. I'm a person too, so this is something I can relate to. And all of us, each and every one of us that walks this earth, must tend to our mental health, or suffer the consequences of a life not led to its fullest potential. The beauty of being human, of course, is our shared experience, and yet not all of our shared experiences are good ones. Dealing with pain, loss, grief, anxiety, and angst, these are as human as the antithesis. Joy, love, excitement, and more. And there are times in everyone's lives when you've got to put your shoulder into the negative to get to the positive. This is where, in my experience, therapy comes into play. And I'm pleased that therapy can be more accessible than ever for everyone hearing this by way of BetterHelp. See, BetterHelp is online therapy, and while that may sound quite futuristic and strange, the reality is that it's efficacious and convenient. Instead of driving somewhere, setting up shop in a waiting room, and paying an arm and a leg for the honor, BetterHelp brings licensed therapists to you digitally. This means you can talk to someone via video, audio, or even just over text. When you sit and think about it, why wouldn't therapy always work like this? Well, it does now. My friends, whether you're dealing with family or relationship issues, trouble at work or in your career, anxiety or depression, and so much more, a BetterHelp therapist can help you manage, cope with, and ultimately overcome what ails you. And with an unencumbered mind comes a higher level of living, with greater expectations and infinite levels of potential. You've just got to know when to give in, reach out, and work on yourself. Flexible and fully designed to work around your schedule, BetterHelp allows you to switch therapists easily if things aren't working out, and there's no additional charge for doing so. Therapy has truly helped me in my past. I'm in therapy right now, and I think BetterHelp is a great option for those of you looking for help yourself. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain by giving online therapy a go. Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/constellation today. That's betterhelp.com/constellation to get 10% off your first month of therapy sessions. That's betterhelp.com/constellation for convenient, affordable, and effective online therapy that can truly help your life. Let's go on to number 8. I'm curious to see what you guys think of this. Number 8. It's a C, and it's on fire.
Classic.
What team is this? Red with yellow trim, almost gold trim. Pretty iconic in its sport. We were talking, Dagan, about that solid design. I mean, this is one of those solid, iconic design. Never needs to be redesigned.
Classic. Just classic.
Chris, I want to hear what do you have a guess here?
Yeah. So it's a sea that's on fire. So I was thinking of things that might have to do with fire. So I guessed the kitchens, but with a C.
Okay.
I like it. Not correct, but I like it.
No, yeah. I have no
Dig, what is this logo?
Yes, I'm old. I was born in the 70s. That's the Calgary Flames.
Yes. Very well done. Dustin,
Obviously,
what team is this?
The Flamin' Hot Cheetos.
Flamin' Hot Cheetos.
Yep.
Do I give you, you said flame. Do I give that to you? I don't think so. Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
Dustin, that's a good call, though. Frito-Lay should get in on that collab.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
This is an icon. I always wanted a Flames sweater, like a jersey. I never had one when I was a kid because I used to collect hockey jerseys, and this was one I always wanted. I think that's such a timeless, awesome hockey logo.
Do they have any iconography that actually has flames written out? Because I think that could be. I could see that catching on in the gay community, not in an ironic way, but in actually a cool way. You could rep it.
I wonder. Yeah, I don't know if they. I don't think so. Their alternate logo is like a horse's head with like flames coming out of its nostrils.
Oh, that's cool.
I think because I think the Stampede is Calgary's CFL team.
Stampede.
All right. Let's move on to number 9, my friends. What is this logo? It's
hello.
Some sort of creature in flight, black and red, with white trim. This might be the most famous team on this list.
Yeah.
For ways good and bad.
I think I know it.
I think I know it too.
Well, Chris, let's start with you. What do you have here?
The Falcons?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Nice,
The
Chris.
Falcons.
I don't know the
Dustin,
city.
did you get Atlanta is the city. Did you guess? Yep.
Falcons.
Dustin's got it. Falcons. Dagan.
Yep. Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, very well done. Okay. Made too easy then. They became, of course, famous for their bungling of the Super Bowl 5 years ago when they were up 28-3.
And dogfighting, right?
Yeah, Michael Vick.
And Michael Vick with the dogfighting
game.
game. That was even older ago, a little longer ago. Okay.
That was a while ago.
Let's go on to number 10. This is actually a logo I really, really love. Very curious to see what Dagan thinks of this from a design aesthetic.
Oh, I don't know what this is.
Love this logo.
What?
This is a professional sports team. It's a bird, obviously. Long, red-orange beak holding something in its hands. Blue, gold, white. Very, very slick. Really, really love this logo. Any idea what it is? Chris, do you have any idea what this is?
I haven't written it down yet, but the Pelicans?
That's right. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, shit. All right.
I didn't know that either.
New Orleans Pelicans, the NBA team. Chris has got that. Chris is pulled into a tie with Dustin. Dustin, what do you got there?
I messed it up. It's the Cthulhu shooters.
That's what I was thinking of that too. It looks Cthulhu like.
You think so? That's so interesting. I don't see it.
Yeah. So the beak looks like 3 like tendrils kind of falling off.
Oh, yeah.
You know what?
Holy shit!
Now I'm not going to be able to unsee that. You guys, guys are on fire, man.
Yeah, it looks like 3 tendrils.
Yeah, I got the Pelicans. I didn't know the city. Peoria,
New Orleans. Yeah, Peoria is fine.
Alliteration. Come on, guys. Alliteration. For God, Christ.
I actually love that logo. It's very, you know what other logo I love in the NBA, the more recent logo, but I didn't put it in because everyone would know it, is the Hornets.
Oh, this is
that logo
Hornets
is fucking awesome.
Yeah, my son's a Hornets fan. All right.
Like it's that huge hornet, like holding, like with a huge bee sting coming toward. It's excellent. Love it.
Oh, Pelicans is NBA?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It's holding a basketball. You see it?
Yeah. Yep. I see it.
All right. Let's go on to a number 11.
Okay. Oh, Pelican. All right. Oh, I know this one. Holy shit.
You look so disappointed.
Not angry?
No, he just looks like stoically upset. Like
I love the way
he
this
looks like
is drawn.
he looks like he's in the middle of shaking his head at you.
What team is this? Dustin, what team is this? You know yet?
I wrote Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Bear is not right, but it is a bear. It's blue with blue trim. It's blue, like dark blue and light blue, yellow eyes, some gray trim.
Right.
Very nicely done. Dig, what is this? What is this?
I was just
team?
watching them play. My son's teaching me about basketball. This is the Memphis Grizzlies.
That's right. That's very right. That's right. Good for you.
If not for Graydon, I think I would be doing much worse.
Yeah, you're doing very well.
My 12-year-old is teaching me about professional sports.
You're doing a lot better than I thought.
It's not that emasculating.
Let's put it that way. Chris, did you make a guess yet? You haven't made a guess yet.
No, not yet. I guess the little blue bears.
The little blue bears is not right.
Which should be an amazing.
This is the Memphis Grizzlies.
Which should be
That's the minor league squad.
Dude, it'd be so amazing to see like a proper team with a name like that.
What team is number 12?
What are we on, 12?
What team is number 12?
12.
I get confused. All right.
Okay, I might know the city, but I'm not going to write it because you gave Dagan a no for a wrong city. But I know I think.
That's Jeopardy rules as far as I'm concerned. Like if you say too much and it's wrong, then they'll take it away from you.
Okay, well,
that's a good point.
I'm going to guess the city after.
Okay.
I submit. Okay, well, first of all, Jazz.
That's right.
Oh, nice.
Houston?
No. Utah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They moved to Utah, but that was in the 80s. Yeah. They were originally New Orleans.
That's what I was going to
Hence the name Jazz. Just like the LA Lakers. Guess where the Lakers were from?
The Great
Lakes. Not LA.
Well, a lake.
I didn't
Minnesota.
know that. Oh, really?
That's why they're called the Lakers.
It makes sense. The origins.
So, Dustin, you got that right. Utah Jazz. Love this logo. It's a blue music note with a basketball at the end of it. Green and yellow. Chris, did you get this one?
No, I mean, I guess the notes. So no.
The notes, no. Close enough. And Dagan?
Good logo, very elegant. Yeah, Jazz. Yeah. I didn't know the city though.
That's all right. We'll give it to you. All right, my friends. We're almost done. 13.
13.
Let's see what 13 is. We have here a circle, like a very aggressive ovular sort of situation here with black, red, and white in it. Gray outline. What is this? What is this logo?
Huh? I just don't understand.
My lettering
looks
looks stupid.
This is, but It looks like a very sloppy bit of vector Adobe Illustrator art.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I don't see. I know what it is, but I just don't see it. All right.
Oh, you do know what it is. All right. So what is it?
I think I know what it is.
Hit me with it.
I think. Oh, hold on. Let me finish writing it. Sorry about the sloppy handwriting. I think it's the Carolina Hurricanes.
That's right. Currently engaged with as of the time we're recording, with the Islanders in a playoff series.
Can somebody help me where the H is in there? I don't see it.
Are there H's?
Wait, an H?
Yeah, for Hurricanes.
There's nothing.
I don't think there's anything like that. I think this is literally just supposed to be like the logo for the
a storm
on a Doppler map or whatever.
Right. Okay. All right.
So I don't think there's anything else to it. Yeah, it is weird. You're right. You're totally right. It does look like bad vector art. I never really stared at it that closely, I suppose. Did you get it, Dustin?
Rock me like a hurricane.
Wow, look
Scorpions.
at you. Okay. That's 5 for Dustin. Chris, did you get it?
Of course. I got the Baltimore Beyblades.
It does look like
Baltimore
Beyblades.
That's way cooler.
My first thought was
I see the lowercase b too.
My first thought when I saw it was Sonic Adventure 2 again. Because it has
something Sonic-y.
There's something Sonic-y about
You're right. I see what's his name? Knuckles.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's like Shadow and Knuckles.
Well, let's see what we think. We're almost done here. Let's see what we think of number 14.
14.
Here we have a blue P with a yellow ball in the middle, outlined by gray. Classic logo.
Oh, I think I do know what this is. Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to do it anyway.
All right. Give everyone a few moments here.
One illuminating thing about this game is that my handwriting is getting worse and worse. All right.
Dig, hit me with your guess here for this.
Kyle, is this the Portland Trail Blazers?
No, we already did the Portland Trail Blazers.
We did that already?
Number
I was
3.
just wondering about that. Which one was that? Oh, Jesus. Leave it to me. Which one was that?
The circle with the...
Oh, that was the weird movie logo looking one. I have no idea what this is.
Am I the pothead? Maybe.
That's without pot, ladies and gents.
Chris, what did you guess here for this?
So I saw a yellow basketball and with kind of yellow trails, kind of almost dripping, like it's soaked in something. So I guessed the Pistons.
No, but in the right part of the country. If you're talking about the Detroit Pistons, you're kind of close.
Yeah.
Dustin, what was your guess for number 14?
I couldn't even think of anything funny, so I just tried to redraw the logo and wrote penis.
Oh, okay,
nice.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you for at least trying. This is the Indiana Pacers. Famous basketball team.
Of course.
Yeah.
The Pacers, Chris.
Yeah, of course. Who doesn't know the Pacers?
How could you not know?
You ignorant slut.
I know everything.
All right.
You ignorant
2 more to go, my friends. Let's go to number 15.
All right.
Ew.
We have here some sort of
Jesus.
blue and gray and white creature with a fin breaking out of something. Teeth bared, eye angry. What is this logo? What is this logo?
I hate this thing.
I know what it is, but I don't know the city, and I can't. Yeah, that's a horrible logo. Man.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about it now that I've actually never stared at them as long as I tried to pick ones that I thought would be not mega obscure, but ones that you wouldn't know necessarily. Like,
it's the
fucking Rangers or something. What'd you say?
Is this an old one? This is a classic.
This is an old team, but this is their newer logo. But it's probably 25 years at this point.
Okay, all right.
The team that this is had a different logo and different colors for the first 25 years.
I also don't know what it means.
That's it. Well, we'll get into that. Dustin, what do you have?
Sharks.
No, good guess, but it is not the Sharks. Sharks have their own iconic logo in the NHL, but that is not that. I wouldn't include the Sharks here because that would just be.
Well, okay, I'll let them answer.
Yeah. Let's get through it. Chris,
I wrote the Hideous Dolphins.
The Hideous Dolphins is a great guess, but not right. Dagan, what did you guess?
The Ugly Stick Dolphins. Canucks, but I don't know the city.
Wow, that's incredible that you know. Yeah, so it's Vancouver.
Vancouver.
So it's a C, but yeah, I think this is supposed to be. Vancouver is like a water, a water town, a coastal town, and I think that that this is supposed to either be a shark or a whale of some sort busting out of the sea.
I thought a whale initially, but then the fin at the top told me it was a shark.
Like they don't know what a whale is.
Yeah, they're confused.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dagan got that one. Dig, you're killing. All right.
I appreciate the full points because I feel like it should be half credit in all honesty. But
all right, we'll cut your score in half at the end then. That's fine. The final one here. I'm curious what you guys think of this one. The final logo.
I don't know what this is.
This is all red with lots of white negative space. It's a logo that's been around for a long time.
Very simple.
That's all I'll say.
This might be the cleanest logo on here.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
Clean.
Oh yeah, it's really nice.
Very simple. All right. I don't know.
All right, Dustin, do you have an answer for us?
I just went with generic Hunters.
That's a good answer. There is no team called the Hunters in any of these 4 sports, so but neither was there a team called the Penises, and you also guessed that.
I couldn't think of anything.
No, I appreciate that. Chris.
So this is pretty obvious. Target.
I thought that was obvious.
Close. It looks like someone shot a shotgun in a target, or like Target was in like liquid paint, and then someone just put their hand through it.
Yeah, exactly.
Dig, what is this logo? This red and white logo.
It looks like the post office logo. I just saw a post office.
Oh, okay. It's the Atlanta Hawks.
I was gonna write Hawks, but then I thought we already did Seahawks.
We did Seahawks, right?
But I know
this is just the Hawks straight up.
Just straight up.
The Seahawks football. This would be a basketball team.
All right.
All right. Well, that was it. I mean, so the final score here, as far as I can tell, is 9.5 for Dagan, 4 for Dustin, and 3 for Chris.
Yeah, not terrible.
Not too bad. You guys knew
crushed it.
You guys knew the Seahawks, right? You got that one. Chris accidentally got Wild, which was funny.
That was funny.
You all knew Falcons. That was another one that you all knew. Yeah. So not so bad. Dig, you were impressive here.
Yeah, you think?
I thought I'm surprised, like Canadians. Now it's worth noting that they're a French team, so it's Canadiens with an E, not an A. But I gave it to you.
Oh.
Thank you for that.
I said this recently on a show that I wrote into when I was maybe 8 or 9. I wrote to every NHL team. I used to get this. So I used to get this magazine that like was all about hockey cards. I think it was called Hobarts or something like that.
Okay.
And at the back end, they would, at the back it would be like, write to your favorite NHL team. It would have all their addresses, like all their information. And I wrote to all of them, every one of them. And I think like 8 or 10 got back to me and sent me like these cool packets with pictures and stickers and all this kind of stuff.
That's
and the
so
Montreal
cool.
Canadiens sent me probably the coolest one. And it was the year they won the Stanley Cup. It was 1993. And they sent me like a huge team picture with some people signed it. And like, it was like hanging in I just have this random like piece of ephemera from the Montreal Canadiens 1993 Stanley Cup team. Very, very weird.
Colin, I think of NFL teams, I bet you that I could get at least over half. I could maybe do 75% of NFL teams.
Well, so here's what I did. I mean, I'll tell you guys, I don't know. Was that fun or was that stupid? I don't know. I don't know if that was fun or stupid.
No, that was kind of an interesting challenge.
Yeah, I thought maybe the audience will like it. Instead of bringing a topic, it's like, let's have a little bit of an engagement here. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but I wanted to get it out at the top so people can tell me what they think. But yeah, I went to, there's like a logo repository online of like all professional sports logos. And I just opened I knew I wanted to not do baseball because of Dagan knowing all of those.
That I would know.
And so I opened the NBA, the NHL, and the NBA. And then I just really opened ones where I was like, these are obscure enough, I think, to not be known. A lot of logos have the name in it too. So you have to kind of avoid that, or like something very obvious. One logo I wanted to do, but I didn't realize it says Nuggets in it, is the old Denver Nuggets logo. That was like the rainbow skyline. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. It's like
there's a team called the Nuggets.
The Nuggets.
Yeah, because of gold nuggets in the Rocky Mountains. Yeah. So they're old. The original, in the 70s, they had their logo was like a miner with like a mining thing or whatever. Yeah. And then I
remember that.
And then they did a very 80s thing, which I think is cool, and people can go look it up. It was like the city skyline, like the Denver city skyline, but it's a rainbow basically. And I wanted to do that, but it says Nuggets on it.
They used to be the miners, is what you said?
No, there were the Nuggets, but their logo was a miner, so it kind of made sense. Like it's like the Nuggets, like
Nuggets.
Would you guys rather be a Nugget or a Predator? I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. It's like you should have. If there was a team called the Miners, you could have them face the Predators, and it'd be the game of the century.
You have got something there.
Chris Hansen is the ref.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course he is.
Dropping the puck. All right. Well, I wanted to do that experiment. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If it was stupid, let me know, but I hope it wasn't. All right, let's move on. Chris, I want to hear from you. I want to talk about Creator Clash. I want to hear all about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. It's tricky to talk about this because I've been in it for so long, and at this point I've been out of it for like I don't know, a week or two. I could kind of talk aimlessly about it, but I think Dustin mentioned that he had very specific questions about it, and I'm sure you guys probably have like some curiosities too. So I think that's probably a better way to guide it. So I'm not just rambling incoherently about a multi-month long process that was largely kind of nebulous and weird.
I have a question to kick you off.
Yeah.
I gotta go get a water. Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
My question to kick it off, Chris, is that I remember you went to the first Creator Clash, and that's when you got a twinkle in your eye.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious about that, just because you are more athletic than Colin and I. I know you were lifting weights and stuff when I was editing Sacred Symbols years ago, talking about lifting weights and stuff. And well, I guess Colin works out now.
Yeah.
But you're not the type, really, in my mind. And so something happened a year ago where you thought, I want to get my face punched, and you were cool with that. So I'm just curious what that looked like for you.
Yeah, I mean, when you're there, and I will say it's like a really infectiously fun event to be at. It's something. There were a lot of YouTubers there, like people who I kind of know, who are like kind of like Jack's Films, and like people who have been around on YouTube for a really, really long time, who are telling me specifically that this event feels like what VidCon used to feel like at its very, very early stages, which is very, very creator focused, very like creator driven, and very not corporate. And very just like kind of it's very relaxing, despite the fact that it's like a blood sport that you're engaging in. It's like it's an interesting almost juxtaposition that happens there. And I don't know, something about seeing friends of mine get into a ring and beat each other up for charity and have these like elaborate walkouts. It just looked like a lot of fun, and it also seemed like something that was so out of my comfort zone that I thought people would get a kick out of the fact that I would be doing it. Like, I think it'd be the last place that a lot of people would expect me to go. And that was like a large driving force for me to want to do it. Also, just like personal, I just wanted to do something that felt really, really, I wanted to prove to myself that I could commit to something difficult and like really, really draining, and something that like, oh man, this is not something that I want to do. I don't want to wake up every day and go to a gym at 7 a.m. and get punched by a Bulgarian coach. That's not fun. But I don't know, just to actually do it and follow through on it. That was what was important to me. But it was, I don't know, it was such a weird getting in the ring, like stepping in there, everything, you're just suddenly deaf. And that was a weird experience to have, because I've done sports before. Like I've played, like I was on a baseball team when I was like really, really young. So I know what it's like to do like perform sports in front of like crowds and stuff. But like being in a 20,000 person arena and stepping into a ring and then hearing nothing is surreal.
Yeah.
It was very, very weird and almost out of body. And I told you guys I broke my nose in the ring. I didn't even notice.
Oh.
Yeah, I had no idea. It's fine now. It's like it was like a very minor break, but like I could not. It was just. It didn't feel like I was there. It almost felt like I was playing a video game.
Wow.
And so in some weird way,
the adrenaline.
Yeah, it is. It is adrenaline, because like immediately once you're in the locker room, your head hurts like really, really bad for like 15 minutes, and then you're fine again. It's a very, I don't know. It's a very interesting experience, but I thought people would get a kick out of the fact that I was doing it. Because I don't think people expect that from me, because I don't, I'm not an active person.
Yeah, but you did it. I mean, let me tell you what's striking to me about it, Chris. And I've been thinking about these things. I was thinking about it in relation to you, but just my association with boxing or formal fighting, now it's MMA, but dating all the way back to like the earliest Rocky movies growing up in the 70s and 80s, there's a couple of things, there's a few things that really I think, have me admiring you over this. First of all, it's the bravery to do this, just to step in the ring and have a man-on-man fight where, you know, it's an organized sport. You guys there's a referee. It's not a street fight, but it does take at least some level of bravery to be able to do this. Not only to step in the ring, but the discipline to train, to work yourself up to this point. But the even more than those two things, the one thing that really I'm not sure I would have the composition for is, and I've always wondered about this, again, dating back to the Rocky movies and thinking about MMA and professional fighting and purses on the line and these guys doing it for a living. What always struck me was I'm not sure I would be able to get in the ring and fight somebody unless I really hated that person, unless I really had an issue to get in there and I was wreaking, I was taking revenge for somebody. They wronged somebody I loved or something. I'm not sure I could get myself to hurt somebody who I didn't really hate. And these guys are just like you, a Creator Clash or Rocky or real life MMA. These guys are not enemies. They're pit against each other, usually for money. In this case, it was charity. So there's an extra bit of admiration that goes into it for me. But that's got to be beyond the bravery, even beyond the discipline, which are two very notable traits about this that you obviously have, is the fact of how did you get in the ring and fight somebody that, again, you didn't really have any bad blood with?
Yeah. I mean, when you're training for something like this, that's a big part of it. Like kind of getting over the idea. It's like, all right, listen, you're fighting. It's not a fight to the death, but you still have to hurt the other person. Like that's like that's the point. Ideally you want to hurt them in a way that's, going to bring them down, but not going to, cause some crazy problem.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a weird, you have to think of it more like a competition than a fight in some way, where it's like you have to get points. And that's kind of how you have to think about it. It's like, okay, I hit him here. That's a point. I got this combo. That's this many points. He hit me. That's 1 minus. You have to think of it more like a numbers game than like a proper street brawl. Because if you think of it like a street brawl, you're going to go insane. Your adrenaline kind of kicks in and overrides your training.
Sure.
Like specifically when you get punched in the face the first time, your immediate inkling is to lash. Just to lash out. And a lot of training is kind of subduing that and being like, okay, you got hit. What is your reaction now? Like it shouldn't be, because it shouldn't be to lash out. I noticed this when sparring with other people who were a little bit newer, or like people who like started training around the time that I was training.
Sure. Is
when I would hit, they would immediately like lash out in like this rage. And it was really, really easy to combat it because you knew that they weren't thinking about what they were doing. And it was like a purely instinctual thing. Yeah. And instinct isn't going to get you through a fight. It might get you through like a street brawl.
Anything goes street
brawl.
But
like a proper like boxing match where you're supposed to be thinking about like defending your chest or like defending your organs and stuff. You're not thinking about that. You're just thinking wail, 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 wail.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the training is outside of just cardio and lifting weights and having a disciplined diet. Although in my case, it was like a wildly undisciplined diet to a degree that I was wildly uncomfortable with because I had to gain so much freaking weight. Are you
afraid of losing that weight?
Huh?
Are you afraid of having to lose that weight now, or are you going to try to maintain it?
No, I don't. I'm at 131 now.
Oh my God, I could eat you. I mean, you're so small.
130. Yeah. I was 130.
Like you're so. I don't mean small and insult. Like you're so. You weigh so little. Like I think I can put you on a plate and just eat you.
Yeah. I'd feed a family of maybe 3.
I'm part of him. Let me tell you.
Yeah. But I went from 119 or 120. I think I was at the start of this to 137.
That's significant.
When I stepped in the ring, which is like,
that's a lot.
And those last 5 pounds were in the last 3 weeks.
Oh,
because
wow.
I had to come up to my opponent, who, by the way, I had completely agreed to. I've seen a lot of people be like, "Oh, they put you up against it." It's like, I know, I'm very aware.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you, Chris. Wasn't that interesting? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, isn't it interesting that because it was like this David and Goliath sort of situation, like that, there's an iconic, what I think is like an iconic like still image of it, right?
Yeah.
That like
Yeah.
you're the winner. Like it's a rare example, I think, where like the loser of the match is clearly the winner of the match. I mean, did you kind of feel that? I loved that energy kind of around you. Like everyone, there was like no one talking shit, no one doing anything from what I could see, which I liked. And obviously from a protective point of view, it also, I thought that was people saw how unrealistic it was and that you did it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of like raised your stature.
Yeah, no, I felt that too. Like obviously my original opponent would have been a lot more evenly matched, which would have been cool too. That would have been ideal. But I don't know. There's not a lot of people my height, my weight, and my level of, I don't want to say expertise because that's not the right word, but like I had been training for, 8 months. They can't just find some random guy, 130 pounds, 5'4", with no training.
Yeah, that's tough.
To go against me. It would have been obliterated. And it wouldn't have been fair. And then I would have looked like an asshole because I'm just beating up this guy who just jumped into it. So, they found somebody, like pretty much the only person willing to jump in there. And, I understood that there was a height advantage, a weight advantage, a reach advantage that, he had over me. But it was 8 months of training, and it's when you do something for that long, I was nervous to do it like the entire time, even when I had a normal fight lined up. Like it's a nerve-wracking thing. Like it was constantly, like every week I would think like, should I do this? Like constantly. But once it got like the possibility of it being taken away for reasons that aren't even my fault, that was startling. And I was like, no. This was not for nothing. And it wasn't for nothing either. I got in shape. It was like, even if I didn't do it, it still would have been a benefit to me.
Yeah, that's cool.
I found a way to work out that I enjoyed and that was like really, really fun and really cool. But I still wanted to do this thing because like I had my walkout planned since I walked out of. I had the walkout plan since the moment I walked out of the last one.
That's awesome.
So like I was like, I need Suavemente there, and I need to come out with like all these people that not industry people, not like content people, just like my friends from throughout the years who I met just completely naturally through school or through other things. And it was cool to be able to share that moment with them. I've mentioned this before, but I just love it so much. There's this photo of me and my friend coming out of the ring. And it's the friend that I moved to Los Angeles with. We made the drive in like 3.5 days. We had like no money. And that I had that moment captured of us kind of like outside of the ring with like the flag wrapped around me. It's like, I'm like smiling. And you can see my mouth guard perfectly too. It's like the Majin Vegeta mouth guard. It's like I love that photo so much. I'm gonna get it like framed and like printed and framed because it's just so fun. It's the coolest photo that will ever be taken of me in my entire life, and I'm sure of it, which is really like a little disappointing because I know my wedding photos aren't going to be that good. Like they're not. Like just for like straight up, I am not even going to be remotely as pleased. But I don't know. I'm kind of rambling at this point.
I love the bookend moments, though. When you're moving out to LA and the beginnings of all of this, and now your internet fame and being able to do this fight in front of thousands and thousands of people, and the pageantry and the fun of the walkout, the swagger, and that there's a payoff. That you feel good about it in the end. The physical payoffs, the emotional payoffs, because awesome. You paid a price for I think the selflessness, knowing it was for charity, and again the bravery and the conviction of just putting it. It's like, it would have been so different if somebody said, you're going to do this thing. You have 2 weeks. You don't even have time to deliberate. Time goes so fast, but you had to dedicate yourself to this over the better part of a year, months and months, and stick to it. Tell me about the diet, Chris. That's what was it carbs and protein, just pure nonstop eating and that sort of thing.
Here we go. Here we go.
I was eating.
I have to eat so much food. Wait.
I'm sick of this bullshit. I would have eaten for you if I could.
Dude, I would love to have like some kind of like psychic link that would have let that happen. But
I would love that.
Oh man, no, I just it's not my natural way of existing. Like I'm a pecker kind of. Like I peck throughout the day. I eat like maybe one. Yeah. I eat maybe like one solid meal a day, like one really like hefty. And then throughout the day, I'm just kind of snacking.
Yeah.
Like in the morning, I'll have like an Eggo or something. And then in like at like 2:00 or something, I'll have like, okay, I'm going to have a big sandwich. I'm going to have soup. I'm going to have like all this stuff. And then maybe at night I'll have like, I don't know, like a burrito or something, right?
Okay.
Maybe even not. Maybe I might even skip dinner. I might just snack on just random things throughout the day. So I went from about maybe 1,700 calories a day, maybe 18, to I think 31.
Oh shit.
Which, you know, it's not. It's uncomfortable because you feel sluggish, especially because you have to like, you're full and you feel slow, and then you have to like exercise in like the most intense cardio in the world. It's you know, the worst part of it was the diet. Easily, like getting punched in the face, no problem. It's actually way less scary than I had initially thought it would be going into it. Like it's really no big deal at all. But just sitting there and scarfing down food to the point where like you feel like maybe this is just me, but have you ever been like just sitting there eating and you're chewing and you're chewing and you're chewing and your body won't let you swallow?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. That's self-imposed though, for no reason.
No, but like it was like my body just wouldn't let me swallow at a certain point. It was like, bro, stop. What are you doing? I literally, it got to the point where like I had to like rely on edibles. Like I would take like a quarter or like maybe like half of a you know, a THC gummy just to give me the munchies to get through the calorie count, because there was no way, like there's just no way I was
stimulate your appetite. And that's probably very common with this, right? Because you're a human, you have limits.
I have my personal limits. My metabolism's high. I don't normally eat a lot. I remember this one time, I don't know if I told the story on the podcast, where like I got so high that I ate so much that my stomach was like pressing up against my lungs. And I couldn't like it was so bad. Like I thought I think I remember I had 2 Five Guys burgers.
Yeah.
All the fries. All of them. Both the big sodas. And then I had 3 chicken quesadillas and a Crunchwrap Supreme.
Holy shit.
A bowl of Fruit Loops and a pastrami sandwich.
No.
And this was in maybe like 2 hours that I had all this food. Holy and then I went to bed because I was just so hot. Like the edibles are no joke. When you would like munchies on edibles are crazy. And so like I remember going to bed and waking up in pain, being like, oh my God, I don't think I've ever eaten this much in a single day, let alone in those 2 hours. And I went to like urgent care.
Oh,
because I really thought that like I might like rupture something. Like I really thought like it was like, because I was also like high, so I was like paranoid. So I was like, is this like sepsis? Is this sepsis? Am I going into septic shock? Like I really was scared. So like I went and I was like, and then I had to explain to the person, it's like, hey, I got really high and ate too much. And they were like, go to bed, drink, and I was like, all right. And then, so the next day, I was
they asked you for $150, by the way, because you went to urgent care.
Yeah, exactly. But like the next day, I was like afraid to eat because I felt like I'm already at max capacity. Like what could I possibly eat? So I just nibbled on like 1 saltine throughout the whole day and like drank kombucha, because I heard it was like there was like bacteria in there that would help.
Yeah, help you digest.
I was so scared, dude. I'm not even exaggerating. For 4, maybe 5 days, my stomach was like in the most intense pain.
Holy shit!
And it was really like legitimately pushing my lungs. Like I would get to the point where I was gonna sneeze, and right at the apex, before I could sneeze, I would like wince. So I couldn't even get the satisfaction of sneezing. Anyway, this is like just to exemplify the point. Like I don't eat a lot, and I don't do well when I have to gorge myself.
That's a big change, and thank God they didn't have to pump your stomach too.
Yeah,
that's.
I mean,
it's
a good thing though. It's a good thing though that I didn't have to worry about like eating healthy theoretically. Like I just had to put on like, I mean, there's obviously stuff that you should avoid, but generally I had carte blanche to just kind of eat whatever. It's like, listen, eat burritos. They were like, you're trying to gain weight. Pizza's the best, which is like unfortunate because I'm in a place with such shit pizza. If I was in New York, I could have packed those pounds on so easy. It's insane. But Yeah, it was mass gainer protein shakes, about 2 a day, 4 scoops of mass gainer, 2 scoops of ice cream, a little bit of peanut butter, creatine was like a big part of it.
Creatine, sure.
And creatine's brutal. I don't know, man. It was a journey. I'm really happy not to do it anymore.
Yeah. It's so interesting, Chris, to hear you talk about it. Like, I have so many questions I written down that I want to ask you about. It's funny. The protein thing is funny because I started drinking protein, taking protein powder last year after I lift weights. And I must admit, like, so when I started lifting weights, my arms started to grow, no doubt. But when I started drinking protein and lifting weights, like, I look in the mirror sometimes and I'm like, not bad. You know, like only with my arms and my legs though. My middle body, I look like fucking Humpty Dumpty. I'm starting to look like Humpty Dumpty over here. Like,
you got to do crunches, man.
I'm starting to tank. Yeah, I'm starting to tank like a little bit, like being, getting more. I'm getting more dad bodish where I definitely eat like shit. I definitely eat too much, but I also work out really hard and I drink protein. So it's like some sort of unholy alliance where my body's doing the best, certainly doing the best it could. But I got discouraged because I went to the doctor last year and they told me I was 190 pounds, which would be the heaviest I've been since 2010 probably. And I'm like, Jesus. And Micah makes fun of me. And we explained it on one of the shows where I asked the doctor if the scale was broken and if I can get a new scale because I didn't believe it. And I was dead up serious, by the way. It wasn't like me trying to be funny.
That's not bad for 6 feet, 6'1", whatever you want.
No, 6 feet. But I do have sometimes like I realize that it's not that I'm sucking my gut in. It's just that you kind of learn how to be. And so like you're kind of just in your comfortable state. But when I let my body like rest, like, when you let your body just drop and you're like, your spine's like barely even holding up. My gut is just like, that's normal. I literally just eat from 7:30 or 8 at night until 11 or so. That's it. I don't eat any other time of day, but man, am I packing it away. I'll tell you what, just do it. But Chris, this is what I wanted to ask you, my friend. And I don't know how much you can talk about this, but let me work backwards. After the fight, as Chris knows, because Chris and I talked extensively about all this stuff offline, but I was so upset for Chris after this that I actually sent him a voice memo. And
that's shocking.
I got a voice memo from Colin. And I thought, like, am I fired? I was like, it's so unusual.
I have talked to Colin on the phone 3 times, I think. We've had voice meetings, but a phone related audio message, maybe 3 or 4 times since 2018.
That's scary. It's
a big one.
So it's really saying something. I want to emphasize that. It's really saying something.
It's like watching a mannequin move on its own. It's like a really inherently dissettling notification to.
I wonder if I listened to it the other day. I wonder if I can find it. Let me see. Oh yeah, here it is. Here.
I think it goes away, doesn't it?
No, I saved it.
Okay.
But here. It's Colin. I know voice memos are annoying, but just wanted to let you know I was thinking about you. I'm real proud of you for accomplishing this great task. Thought it was incredibly unfair the way you were treated throughout this entire situation, but just wanted to let you know that I'm thinking about you, love you, proud of you. Well done. Get your life back. See you soon. And that's what, and well I said that because I was like, and I went back and listened to it recently, and I was like, because you could hit keep, by the way, to keep your voice memos, like when you say
it. I always forget.
Because who the fuck knows what I'm saying to people, and then they have evidence that I don't know. But I was like, wow, my voice is kind of like upset. Like I know myself well enough to know that in that moment I was mad. Like
it's a sinister tone.
Yeah, like I was. And this is what I wanted to touch base with you on. And I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but
sure.
How did you feel like you were robbed of the full experience, like the full holistic experience of it through obviously no fault of your own? And I'm wondering how you felt, or if you're willing to speak about publicly, and we've talked about this privately, but are you willing publicly to talk a little bit about how you feel about what happened and the decisions behind you getting a new opponent and all of that? Because to me, that's what I was so upset about. After I watched the fight and I sent you that voice memo, and I was fucking rattling off to Micah. She probably thought I was insane. I was just like, it's so unfair. Like, he worked so hard and he didn't get the whole fucking pop of it because he didn't get the fair fight. But then I was starting to think like, well, it's kind of about like, it's almost like a RPG where it's about the journey, and like,
yeah, it is.
So I'm just curious. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was disappointed that things happened in the way they did, especially because, like you said, I didn't I didn't do anything. I didn't instigate anything. I didn't.
No.
I wasn't. I saw some people like have some weird theories that like, oh, I kicked him out. I was like, no, I didn't. I definitely didn't want to replace my even opponent with somebody that I couldn't reach.
That's a pretty tame theory to some of the things I saw on Twitter that were really fucked up and stuff that people shouldn't have said. Like just horrible shit.
There are freaks out there.
Yes,
for sure. And but I don't know. It didn't really bother me. The thing to me was just that I got to do it. Like as long as it was saved in some way, and I got to have the experience. I was happy. I was grinning ear to ear like the second I walked out of that ring, and knew that I had done it because it was something I was telling people. It's like I'm so glad it's something I did and not something that I'm going to do. Because going to do it is so anxiety inducing, but having done it, it's like, oh my God, it's like this huge weight. But I mean, I don't know. It was a complicated situation that. I mean, I wasn't super privy to a lot of the stuff because I specifically wanted to maintain my distance from anything that didn't explicitly have to do with me because I'm not an organizer, like I'm not making decisions for this thing. Would I have made the decision to, if I was in their shoes, would I have made the same decision? I don't know. Part of me thinks no, because I'm biased towards myself and I wanted that equivalent fight. But also, they're not a company doing this. It's like it's two people who I know and I'm very close with and very good friends with these people. They're organizing this thing by themselves. They have help, obviously, but this isn't like a corporate entity. It's not Viacom putting on some big show. It's two people organizing a very, very professional event with a lot of, background checks, a lot of people checking in. It's sanctioned properly by the Boxing Commission, that's awesome. Which is something that is not true of a lot of these influencer fights.
Does that mean you have like a real record, like 0-1 if I went and looked at the database?
That's so cool.
That's so cool, man.
I think so. I'm not super sure how it works, but the Boxing Commission is there. Like they didn't let you, in order to use your gloves, you had to open them there to make sure they weren't tampered with. It was very locked down and very, very real. It felt like almost to the point where I felt like I should not be. Like I was like, what the hell am I doing? But yeah, it was frustrating to go through that last minute switch. I mean, I talked to you guys. You guys know how stressed I was leading up to that. Just purely because everything is uprooted. I don't do well with that shit. Like if I'm like going through my day, I remember this very, very vivid experience that would happen constantly throughout my childhood where like my mom would be like, hey, we're going to go to the grocery store. And I'd be like, okay, I'll come with you. And then immediately after the grocery store, I'd be like, hey, I got to do this other thing. And then I got to do this other thing. And I'm like, well, now I'm stuck. I didn't plan for this. I mentally prepared for the grocery store. And now I'm in like Hoboken. I don't want to be here. Like, what am I doing? What is this? My whole day is gone. And that's kind of how I felt leading into this because I'd been preparing for 9 months or like 8 months for this specific opponent. And then like to have it switched, I was like, oh, God damn it. Like, this is frustrating for sure. But, it all worked out. I would have preferred, an even bout. But all things considered, I feel pretty proud of still having done it. In some ways, I feel better about myself that I even jumped into this at all, knowing all these advantages that I had against me. Part of it feels kind of cool.
Yeah, I can get that. Yeah.
So I don't know. It was definitely more about the journey and the fact that I had finally done it. And also that I got to give my friends that awesome experience of like going through the walkout and that was what was most important to me.
Chris,
because,
is so cool.
Well, before I finish.
Yeah.
I was totally like, if they couldn't find an opponent, I would have been disappointed for me, but I would have been extra disappointed for like the friends that I had told to come to Florida to have this really amazing experience that we're now not going to have that. So that was kind of my main.
Yeah. And I'm sorry. I mean, not that I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Oh, no, it's not a huge deal.
But I'm sorry that I couldn't be there. I wanted to be there. I kept getting emails, like no matter my correspondence with the people, it was like, I got my ticket and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, come on. I told them, And for people that don't know, that weren't around when I was saying it, it's my whole family basically came to Virginia that weekend, so I couldn't be gone. I was actually planning on going. Micah and I were both planning on going. She really wanted to meet actually Aaron because she loves Game Grumps.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I know him actually. Like I did something with him for Bloodstain and we co-hosted some stuff together. So I'm like, I can definitely probably arrange for that. So she was amped about that and we were amped to go.
Yeah.
We couldn't.
That actually worked out super well because we had a friend of ours who showed up by surprise, and I was like, I don't have a ticket for you. I can't get you. It's like, oh wait, I have Colin's.
Yeah, great. That's perfect. See, that's exactly what I was afraid of, Chris. Remember, because I told you, I'm like, you should talk to them so that you can keep your ticket and your hotel room and all that. You know?
Yeah. No, I did. So it's all good.
Perfect.
But yeah.
Chris, I'm sorry, Dustin, you were going to ask something.
Well, no, I was just going to say, because when all of the drama was unfolding, I have to give you the compliments of the restraint. Not necessarily towards your old opponent, but there were instigators that I was observing, and what I would call, I'm speaking for myself and not Chris, unsavory people looking to capitalize on a situation.
Oh, 100%.
And that really annoyed me to the point where I almost wanted to say something, even though I'm so far removed from the situation. So I can't imagine how you felt during that time where you're just kind of floating around, figuring out what's going to happen. Yeah. And then you have these morons just being assholes. So I really respected your restraint in that situation to just kind of let things ride, stay out of it, even though people were talking shit about you for no fucking reason.
Yeah, it sucked. It was a weird experience but it was also one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm not, this isn't news to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure Colin has probably the same experience. Like, we've been shit talked constantly.
So oh my God, people are fucking.
So what does it matter? Like,
go read our Reddit sometime.
Yeah, there were Twitter spaces where people were like just straight up conspiracy theorizing about like me like having like this secret relationship with the organizers and how like it's just like so wild weird. Like wild fan fiction shit that like, I was like, it's almost funny. Because I know the reality and I know it's so detached. It would bother me a lot more. And I told this to them too, where it's like, because they felt bad about like obviously they were getting like nuclear shit. Like people were like stalking them and shit. So like they got a brunt of it. But you know, they were talking to me and they were like, yeah, we feel bad about all this weird shit. And I was like, I would feel worse about it if any of this was even remotely true. But it's not, so it's whatever. Like,
what can you do about that, right? Like,
yeah,
what can you do about it?
Yeah, I think a year or two ago, Alana, one of the fighters actually, she's obviously
Alana
works
Pierce.
at Alana Pierce, who works at Studio Santa Monica. She actually reached out to me about a lot of that stuff, like when other stuff was circulating. Like, why are people calling you a Nazi? What is that? And I just sort of was like, oh, it's this and that or whatever. And she said something that like actually stuck with me. There was like, she said, sometimes you just have to let people be wrong about you, which is like,
that's powerful advice.
Which is sounds really simple. It doesn't sound particularly like helpful in any way, but it really kind of is, because there's so many versions of you living in people's heads that the act of going out and trying to correct all of those misconceptions is kind of, not only is it like fruitless, but it's almost inherently not narcissistic, but like kind of like the need for everyone to see you the way you see yourself is like insecure, I think.
Sure.
And so for me, it's like, yeah, it's impossible. It's like it's a pointless endeavor. So for me, it's like, look, I know, like, I know what my relationship with these people are. I know that I did nothing fucking wrong. So, and that's really all that matters to me. So fucking whatever.
Yeah, that's good. That's sound advice, similar to advice our dad would give us about, you know, like you knowing the truth is really kind of the most fundamental thing. And if people are kind of trying to hang their hat on untruths, then that's just a flimsy thing and an unfair thing. And yeah, you're right. I mean, the internet's a hostile and toxic place. There are dude, I am banned. My name is banned on Reset Era. Like, you can't even cite our shows on, places like that. Like, I am excommunicated. Nonetheless, people talk shit about me on a constant basis. You kind of, does it hurt? Like, to read it, that sucks sometimes, but I think the older I get, the more I realize, to your point, it's like, it's not, and what Alana was telling you is that it's not really important. Once I was able to disassociate the idea of like my reputation with people that are never going to like me and my success, which are not intertwined, the second I realized that they're not connected, the second I was like, well, what does it matter? Like, there's just a group of people that hate me, and there's a group of people that don't, and I can't do anything about it. Yeah. So
for me, it used to be about like why do these people think this of me? Mm-hmm. That used to bother me. It's like, what did I do for this? But now it doesn't bother me in that way. Now it bothers me in like a more existential way, where it's like, man, people will, like, it's disappointing from like the perspective of just somebody observing the human race. You know what I mean? It like disappoints me that people are so stupid or so easily manipulated or just so that it's more like, it's like there's like a pity that I feel now, where it's like, aw, damn, like we're not getting better. It's kind of like it's a little defeatist, but I don't know. It's consistently disappointing, but it no longer hurts my feelings. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh man, we're in for a wild ride.
Yeah, that's good. People are just irresponsible with that kind of stuff. And the burning books nature of what you were saying, Kyle, is terrible too. Like, the people I don't agree with just don't exist. And the hyperbole, like somebody says one thing and then now all of a sudden Chris is a Nazi, and and Dustin said it earlier too, people profiting off of that. Somebody big on YouTube like Chris, somebody can make a video about Chris and actually make money, monetize that. And so, somebody you could even do that and gain social media followers and clout. Like, it's just,
it's the easiest way to do that, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. That's why I counter dunk sometimes. And I think I do think that it's that's like the only thing I really do now, instead of kind of bringing the fight to people or trying to do any of that stuff, is I just, once in a while, I'll make an example of someone. I'm like, it's funny because like there's this one pundit that I think still floats around, but that I'm like somewhat widely credited with basically destroying his career by just going on his show, and defending our product. And that to me is funny because it's like, these guys are so brittle, like they're so like, and then people listen to our show. Like when we had Jaffe on last week, Dag, and we got a lot of comments and a lot of positive comments about, wow, look at Colin and Jaffe like engaging and like getting really heavy and like really deep and go. And I'm like, dude, this is the stuff. Don't you understand? This is the fucking stuff right here. And they think it's supposed to come with like some sort of venom and animosity. And I'm like, I love David Jaffe. Like that was nothing. There was nothing he said or did or said to me. People were like, oh, he challenged him and stuff. I'm like, that's great, dude. Iron sharpens iron. It's really, really vital and important. And I've said over and over again that I don't think I'm necessarily any smarter than anyone or anything like that. What I really think is that part of the reason why I think I'm good at this is because I've been in the unique position of being just challenged constantly forever about everything, because I've not been part of the echo chamber. And that's a useful. So if you do anything long enough in that ecosystem, or in that environment, you will get better and you will get sharper and all of those sorts of things. So I don't think it's like an intellect thing or anything like that. That's why I'm so confused why people don't want that sort of thing. Because I think it just makes you better. It makes you sharper. It makes you stronger. It makes you smarter. It makes you think about things you never thought about. It makes you challenge your preconceptions and all the rest. So yeah, I saw that stuff too, though, Dustin, that you were referencing, and it bothered me. Those guys, I'm not going to say any names, but they're fucking low lives. I mean, like, they've long been the people like that peddle in that shit have long been low lives. You can go fuck yourselves. You have no power over me. And I didn't appreciate the way that they were talking about Chris either. So I'm glad that you said that, because it goes to show that I think people in closing, I guess what I want to say, we can close whenever Chris is ready, I guess, with this topic. But I've realized as I've gotten older that what bothers me about the way people speak online is about other people I know, not so much about me anymore. So like when I see something about Dagan, which is very rare, But I was very protective of Dagan and still am, or I see something about Dustin or whatever. That bothers me exponentially more than it bothers me when I see no one can say anything about me that hasn't been said a million times, I guess. So eventually, like, it used to hurt me. It's like, you're calling me a Nazi and a neo-Nazi and a bigot and a transphobe and all these things. And eventually I was like, all right, like, whatever. It doesn't really matter what you say. I mean, it's you said all these things and it didn't matter. So why would I care? But I am much more cognizant of it for the other people that I know have either thinner skin or just aren't as exposed to it. When you work at a place like a big video game website like I did or something like that, you just kind of go through the meat grinder. You either have to like kind of grow some thick skin or not. And I also think it's really important people remember this. When you put yourself out there, it's a person's right to come back at you. We can judge them for the way they do it or whatever, but like you shouldn't expect to say things and not go unchallenged. That's preposterous and ridiculous. And I think people conflate those two things, you know?
Right.
Right. I have no preconceptions or misconceptions about when I say anything on Sacred Symbols that people are going to say something about it, and that's their right. So you kind of have to like take that into balance too. But the people that prey on that sort of situation, the people that make that kind of content only, I think that kind of content is supplement or part of our ecosystem in terms of the texture of gaming, the texture of the internet and online society and all of that. But when you make that your whole thing, it's a turnoff to me. And I also feel like you burn bridges with lots and lots and lots and lots of people.
Yeah.
All right. Are we good, Chris? Do you want anything else that we want to ask Chris about the fight before we move on?
You know what? Just now that it's all said and done, and I apologize if you guys have already talked about this on Sacred, and maybe it's too early for this question, Chris, but would you do it again now that it's all over?
Nice question.
I've thought about it. I don't know. It's such a commitment is the thing. It takes so much of your time. It's expensive. I don't know.
The cost.
Part of me has a newfound respect for it. And I would like to do it again, I think. Obviously, assuming that I could get like a proper even fight this time. But also, I this isn't my passion. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like passionate about boxing. Right. You know, it would be cool to have that experience again. But I think part of me is also just very satisfied with the fact that I did it in the first place, and now I can go back to doing the stuff that I specifically love to do.
Well said.
Maybe in the future, I definitely wouldn't say anytime soon. You know,
that's
definitely not enough, like next year. I'll go to creative class next year. Not going in the ring. You know, I'm gonna enjoy myself.
Yeah, you've been repressed for so long. You must have a lot of creative.
Yeah. Right, no, I'm super stoked right now. I was up super late last night writing. I woke up I got like 4 hours of sleep, but I feel amazing.
It's awesome.
It's
Dustin,
great.
how tall are you, Dustin?
Well,
you're 5'5", right?
This came up on Sacred Symbols, and then people in our Discord said Dustin does not know his own height because Chris, what are you? You're
5'4".
Okay, I think I'm around 3 to 4 inches taller than you.
Oh,
I said 2 on Sacred.
Yeah, okay. So that's not going to be an even match. I was like, well, we might have our matchup right here. You guys just savage each other.
You're 5'8"?
No, 5'7". Sounds right. That sounds familiar. Because people
really,
I have accidentally said I'm too tall and too short. Because I've been accused of trying to, pump up the numbers, but I legitimately don't care and don't think about it. I can't remember.
What's on? It's on your license, isn't it, or like your ID?
Oh. Yeah.
I don't have it on me.
Yeah,
it's in my bedroom. I think it's
there's pictures of people. We should probably be able to extrapolate because there's pictures of the three of us together.
Yeah,
I'm 6 feet tall, so. We just have, and we know Chris is 5'4". So Dustin, we're gonna get into the fucking
Colin
forensics.
I can text her.
We're gonna get into the forensics.
Colin knows your height, and you don't.
That's
amazing.
Definitely.
That's so funny.
Oh, my wife knows that kind of shit too. I shouldn't laugh, Dustin. It's the same thing, same dynamic.
All right. Let's see. Dustin, let's go to you next. Actually,
sure.
What is your topic this week?
So, I think we have a perfect matchup for this topic, in that we've got Chris and I on the younger side, and we got the boomers, the old dudes with Colin and Dagan. But no, so my topic is about our early days on the internet. And so what I like about bringing this to you guys is that Chris and I remember a time before the internet totally took over, where the internet was a utility that, I mean, it's still a utility now, but it's something that it feels more like an activity you would do than just all the time, right?
Yeah.
And it was, I'm going to go on the internet for a little bit, which part of that was because of how the actual technology worked with dial-up, right? But it's fun for me to think back to this early time where internet became widespread. And for me, I remember really first starting to use the internet probably around 2001 or 2002.
Yeah.
And what was unique about that time, I already mentioned dial-up, where if you have a phone line, no one can call your house when you're on the internet. So, and just imagine that now. You can't get any texts or phone calls when you're using the internet on your computer. It's insane to think about now. But what was fun about that time too is that, at least for me, we had the internet at home and we used Netscape as our web browser. And it was just sort of like a traditional web browser now. But obviously, AOL was huge during this time. And my grandparents had AOL. And it felt like an entirely different experience for using the internet with its interface and the different features it had. And I remember just being so intrigued by the different places you could go. And as I got older, the ways that we could communicate. In particular, probably my earliest memory on the internet was going to the Cartoon Network website and playing, I think they had Space Ghost Coast to Coast games on there. And I loved checking that out. There were so many, and this was early days, maybe before, I'm guessing it would have been Shockwave, would have been so pre-Flash.
Yeah.
So that was always really fun, but it also kind of grew also for me with gaming, in that we would be going online to look up cheat codes, or going to GameFAQs, of course, which is, Colin's stomping grounds, to look stuff up, learn new information. And then, of course, there's the whole social side. And the early days, man, AIM was a way of life for me, in that AIM was how we communicated. I'm trying to think, because I remember talking to friends and talking to girls up until maybe 9th grade. So around 2009 for me. And that kind of disappeared with the advent of texting.
Yeah, that was early texting. Yeah.
Texting, when that came about, was difficult, because this was when you had to pay per text, or you had 300 texts to receive and 300 outgoing. And so you had to be careful, because you didn't want to run your text up and have your parents pissed at you because you had this huge bill where there's too many texts. But back to AIM, there's something so special thinking back to about AIM and the culture around that. You think about your buddy icon, and how, for me, the buddy icon felt like a very, very important personal statement of individuality, of what you pick. And then, of course, the away message, where if you're not around your computer, you could put a little away message. And this was perfect for a corny emo lyric, maybe something Taking Back Sunday, Dashboard Confessional lyric, something like that. That's what you put on there. And man, particularly in high school too, this is where you can say something passive aggressive, but also through an emo song lyric, if you would like. You put that in the away status, you're good to go. But it's so funny. It's quaint now, thinking back to the internet then. And I don't know, it's this longing. And I know we've talked about, or maybe I don't know if I was on those episodes, but the idea of how social media has taken over every facet of our lives, where it's on us 24/7 in our phone,
in our pocket. Yeah.
And I can remember the time when I'd be able to get on and I would check MySpace for 20 or 25 minutes, maybe twice a day or something like that. And when you log on, it's like, wow, look at all this interaction and new posts. And now we're just constantly engaged all the time. So I guess I don't know who to throw it to first, because Chris, I guess I'll throw it to you, because I'm sure your experience is similar to mine in that you remember going to like E-Bombs World and Addicting Games and
addictinggames.com, E-Bombs World, Albino Black Sheep.
Yes, yeah.
There was Amish Donkey was another one that I really liked. That was like it had like
that's scratching some weird part of my brain.
That was like that was like you'd find like that. Oh my god, you find those early Jib Jab kind of cartoons and
I worked for them.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, you'd find a lot of that stuff there. You'd find a lot of that was like Star Wars gangster rap era of like Newgrounds, like Flash like early Flash animation.
Yeah.
Newgrounds is amazing, but Newgrounds is like the big thing for me. I feel like you had you were more internet savvy earlier than I was, because I didn't really start messing around with the internet until like sincerely probably like 2006. Like I had been on it. I'd gone to school and you know, like hung out in the computer lab, and my friends would show me this Happy Tree Friends or something on the school computer.
Dagan, isn't that also
I worked for the studio that worked on that.
Okay.
At the same time they did it, but I never worked on that. It's making me feel really old.
It's kind of insane because that's insane because that is a very formative cartoon for me.
Core memory.
Yeah, you guys are of that generation.
Core memory. Yeah. And I remember it very very in depth, but it was also something that I felt was kind of out of my reach because my parents weren't really internet people. My parents are still not very internet people, even as it's become more and more engrossing throughout our entire lives.
Yeah, God bless them, really.
My mom is more savvy. My dad just does not give a shit. Like, he's killed people, so like he doesn't really care about about the internet. He's a fucking veteran. So I don't know. It's weird because I didn't use AIM or anything. You know what I mean?
Really?
Like, I didn't use AIM I used
lucky you.
I used AIM a little, like an MSN very, very sparsely, because to me I was like I was actually just genuinely not interested in talking to people purely through text. And I kind of still am like that. I'll do it because it's just like the easiest way to communicate, but I feel really, really weird talking to people through text way more than I feel. I feel more comfortable in person. Like, and I always have. It's like a reverse autism, where it feels. I don't do well through text, or even honestly through this too. Like the whole like the just a slight bit of latency in like video calls like throws me off entirely. Like I need that real life latency to feel like purely comfortable. But the internet to me was mostly like crude cartoons and weird kind of games. Like what was the bubble guy that you could like abuse? Do you remember this, Dustin?
Is it Spank the Monkey?
No, it was like some Interactive Buddy or something. It was
Interactive Buddy. Yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah,
that was a big hit at Emily Britton Elementary School.
There were also a lot of.
Let me tell you,
there were also a lot of weirdly political games and like cartoons that like we would absorb as children. I remember specifically Bush Ragdoll and Bush Shootout, where you could play as like Condoleezza Rice and George Bush like shooting terrorists and like making your way outside of the White House or whatever. It was fucking absurd, and we were like playing this stuff, not having no context for it. But it was really YouTube. Like the advent of YouTube really sucked me in. Like that was it, where it's like, oh, people can just post things and like make things. Because I was already making videos by myself for myself. Like I was editing in like Windows Movie Maker in like 2003, 2004. Awesome. And I would make I would burn them onto DVDs. And I would make my own cases. I would like cut out I would take something out of like some shitty DVD that I didn't care about.
Chan. Yep, I'm on TV.
It was exactly like that. It was exactly like that. It was fun. God. It was exactly like, you could call it. In fact, I'm the progenitor of that entire. Isn't that crazy how you technically invented Let's Plays? Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy. That came up the other week. That is nuts.
Yeah, but
so interesting.
It was YouTube. It was YouTube that was really the advent for me, because I was like, oh, I can make things, post them, and then my friends could see them. And it was really just like it was really something for your friends, really. Like I didn't really think of YouTube as like a media platform. It was like, hey, let me make something, and then my friends will see it and they'll think it's funny because we all have the same exact sense of humor. And then they'd be like, that's a fun video. Everybody I knew in high school, no exaggeration, had a YouTube channel and they made things on them.
It's amazing.
Which is crazy because like now like people might have a YouTube account to like things or like favorite, or like maybe they'll have like a compiled list of, maybe they'll subscribe, or they'll have a list of content that they specifically subscribe to, maybe, if that. Most people just sort of like log into it or like even just go on the website just to see what's on there. But back then everybody had their own network. And they were making things. It was like a really creative thing to be a part of. And it was interesting to see people kind of like fall out of it as time went on. As I went through my high school career, like I went like 9th grade, everybody I knew had it. And then 10th grade, that was like half. And then 11th grade, that was half of that. And by the end of it, it was really just me. And I thought like, am I doing something wrong? Like, is it weird that I'm still on this? I think this is cool. This is like a really cool thing. And I don't think people really appreciate how interesting this is, that you can make your own shit and you don't have to abide by any rules. You don't have to go. And to be fair, most of these people weren't necessarily like inherent creatives. A lot of these people went on to be like, lawyers or chefs, or so it's like, this wasn't really their wheelhouse. But as somebody who had been editing since like, 9/11, it was something that I was deeply fascinated by. And I'm glad I stuck with it. I'm curious as to how many of the people that I went to high school with, had they stuck with it, would have blown up at some point too. Like that's always a big curiosity of mine. It's like a big what if.
Yeah.
But we always, I don't know, the internet was always around when we were young. But for me, it was like way late because my parents and my family were so not savvy that I really got a good internetless experience. And it's funny you bring it up earlier how now it's something that kind of follows us around. It used to be we took a break from the real world to go on the internet, and now I feel like we take a break from the internet to go back to the real world.
Very well said.
Well said.
And it's weird.
Yeah, it's, and that's what I was saying, is thinking about this time in my head it's so much more fun thinking about like I remember in the early times, I'm Colin and Dagan. I wonder if you guys remember where there was no place to post a meme, and so you got an email chain or something that has the dancing baby that's dancing to the David Hasselhoff version of the of Hooked on a Feeling or something like that. I think it was the David Hasselhoff version, but like that, or there was the video that went around of the monkey that like stuck his finger in his butt and then smelled it and he like fell off the branch. Like that was one of the early memes and stuff. So I'm really curious for you guys who, you weren't born into the internet. You had grown and adapted into it.
We adopted it.
You adopted it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just like Bane. And I was molded by it. Yeah. I think Dagan will have, I guess we can go, it's kind of interesting because we're kind of going sequentially in some way, but the internet was incredibly formative for me. When I discovered it, I was completely hooked into it from the first second. And it was something that is, as you were saying, Dustin, was so much part of me that I was on the internet like we're on the internet today, but I was like that in the 90s. Or in the early 2000s, and Dagan knows that, and that was like a much more, it's like the hacker culture, but I wasn't a hacker or anything like that. I actually did do some programming and would make bots and do all this. I never talk about any of that stuff for some reason. I have no idea why, but like I was like on IRC, like creating bots and doing all sorts of things and coding stuff and trying to learn. But we got our first computer. Our dad got a 486 in the early 90s because he went back to college. And so he got a computer so he can like write on it or whatever, but it was not connected to the internet. It wasn't until my mom got a computer in 1996 that we were on the internet full time. And that was incredibly memorable to me. I remember how you have memories of memories, but then you have actual, like, things happen, but then you remember things happen. They're kind of different in a lot of ways. Like you know something happened, but you remember. I remember going into Circuit City and buying that computer. I remember hooking that thing up to the internet. I remember sending emails, and you used to have to. I don't know, Dave, you might remember, but like, you remember you used to send emails and they would go into an inbox, and then you'd have to hit send and it would send all the emails.
Yeah.
And then you'd hit receive and it would bring all the emails in. Like you would never receive email. You would have to like solicit the email. And this was for bandwidth
just opening
reasons.
it wasn't enough. You had to then do the second function or whatever.
I have a lot of notes here, but I was completely enamored with it. And so people can look this up. I'm sure it doesn't exist anymore, but my first internet was a local company in New Hampshire called TTLC. Our email was whatever at ttlc.net. My first AIM name was Drax Curse, because you can only have 10 characters. So that's Castlevania 3. So DREAC Curse. And and people can, again, go check this out. If you have early issues of PSM, PlayStation Magazine from 97, 98, 99, you'll find old Colin Moriarty in the like the personals or whatever, where you try to find fellow gamers to talk to, selling things. And like my name appears in those magazines multiple times, and my old email address and what I'm looking for and what I'm selling and all of this different stuff. It's funny as hell that I'm kind of enmeshed in that. And a lot of the early MIRC culture that was important to gaming. I was at, all these different servers I was in. I worked at a lot of old, and worked on old fan sites. And of course that culminated with my experience at GameFAQs, which began in 1999. And, yeah, it's so funny you bring this up, Dustin, because I've been quietly talking to an old friend of mine, Devin, at GameFAQs. Devin and I used to write at GameFAQs together, but Devin later became the administrator of GameFAQs and is still there to this day. And this summer, we're going to do an episode all about our experience on GameFAQs in the 90s and early 2000s and the memories and what it was like to be there, because much like Chris was saying, since I was like a generation earlier, what Chris saw on YouTube, I saw on GameFAQs, and on just the ability to go to GeoCities or Angel Fire or Tripod and make your own website or something. So like, I was really enamored with that. The thing I'll say about the internet is that it's so funny to think about it. I started making money on the internet, like as a full-time job, basically 21 years ago. That's like ancient in internet terms. And it's funny you brought up AIM, because AIM, the last place that used AIM probably reliably before it was shut down was the games industry. Ask anyone in the games industry and they'll tell you that everyone was on AIM probably until 2015 or 2016, just still talking to each other over AIM. It was a very regular, very constant thing. Like people would, I'm guarantee you people would that were there would verify this, but it would often be like, you get a text or something and be like, you're not on AIM. Because they like want to have like just this quick conversation about a story placement or an opportunity or whatever. So I always think about that as well. And, I love what you guys said about, we used to be online and then we would live offline, but we live online. Chris was saying this. And I have this very vivid memory of when being offline started to give me like anxiety. And I'm not talking about like the anxiety I suffer from on a daily basis, but rather I really, really resented being taken away from the internet for a period of time. Like if it's like, let's go away for a weekend or whatever, it's like, I can't be on the internet. That seemed unfathomable to me. And we're talking about a time during the flip phone era or even the brick phone era when you'd maybe have cable internet. You didn't have dial up anymore, but you'd still have to go and sit down on the computer and be there.
Yeah.
And so I remember I have a specific memory. Our family owns a beach house in New Jersey, which my mom used to love going to. I hate going there because it's far away and it's annoying and it's like takes you out of your element. And I remember specifically being like, I can't do this until we get like internet connection here. Like I can't do it. And eventually we did. And then I started going to the beach house specifically because they had an internet connection. So I knew I can go on GameFAQs and I can go on IGN and I can go and do all these stupid things because I felt so naked. I felt the same way about cable TV just because it was like comfortable to have. And so I wanted to point that out too, that I really feel like I fell prey pretty early to the internet, but I think it worked out pretty well for me. And I'm probably more disconnected now, ironically, than I was 20 years ago, which is fucking scary with so many fewer tools. Dagan knows, I lived on my computer. For some reason, my parents let me have one in my bedroom in high school. And I was there on my own phone line, not interrupting anyone. 24 fucking. I remember I used to try to be on AIM for as long as possible. Remember you used to put your mouse over the cursor and to tell you how long someone was online? And I used to try to get mine for like months without being disconnected. You put up your little away messages. The other thing I wanted to say before I kick it over to Dagan that I think is a funny memory of like the early internet is and you brought up AOL, CompuServe and Prodigy and a few others existed as well. But the idea that there was, and I don't know if you guys even know this or remember this, maybe you do, but there was like a shell over the internet. You didn't just go onto a browser. That's not how it worked. You had to like literally log on to the internet. And usually that happened either like, so when I was bring up TTLC, that's like a dial-up baud thing that you'd bring up, and then you can open a browser. But AOL was its own combined browser and shell. And one of the things that I remember people being like, and Dagan might remember this too, but people being so confounded by it was like, you can go on the internet without being on AOL. And I remember, so like there were people probably until recent years that were still logging into AOL, thinking that that's like how you went on the internet, not realizing that that was just one mode of dial-up, and they made this shell over it so that it felt like you had to be there. But you could literally go on AOL, minimize it, and then open up Internet Explorer.
Right.
And so I just remember that being so funny. Now you set up a computer without an internet connection is useless today. Useless. Like if you just assume you're on the internet when you sit down, when you're doing anything you do, but it wasn't like that. And I wanted to point that out too. And I think that that's so funny. And Chris was kind of speaking to that when he was talking about making videos. Like the idea of having some sort of utility on this thing without an internet connection is almost unfathomable to me today. And yet that was the way it was. And so yeah, Netscape and AOL and the early MSIE. I remember opening MSIE would take like a minute. You'd like double click it, it would have that E come up, and you'd fucking be sitting there for like 30 seconds or a minute just waiting for it to goddamn open the browser. And then you would use it at a 28.8 speed if you were lucky, 36.6, 56K. And finally getting cable in 2002 was a revolution. Like I remember getting cable internet and being like, this is wild. Yeah. And even though I had it, because I had it on CD, I remember going to Napster or it might've been WinMX at the time, and downloading 311's Come Original just to see how quick it would be. And it was like 3 seconds. I was like, this is insanity.
Yeah,
that's another memory.
This is insane. I remember vividly uploading videos, and it would take 5 hours.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dude.
And they were really like 480p, like 5-minute videos. It'd be like, yeah, it's gonna be 5 hours, and I'd be like,
it's gonna be all day.
And I remember thinking, this is amazing.
Right.
So sorry, I don't want to keep cutting Dagan off because I'm sure he has awesome, interesting tidbits. But maybe this is the segue, Dagan. Chris mentioned about taking forever to upload. Am I remembering correctly that they eventually released the Star Wars Episode 1 trailer on the internet in 1999? Yeah. And people were downloading it for a day.
Yeah, no days.
To watch or multiple days. I feel like I remember my grandpa downloaded it. And that's how I saw the Phantom Menace trailer was this tiny ass,
right?
Not even SD. Yeah.
I remember
that's the thing. I mean, that's why if you go back when I first started freelancing at IGN, it was still kind of true. But if you go to like PS1, PS2 era, N64 era IGN, like the literally postage stamp size videos.
Yeah, super tiny.
Like giving you just some sort of semblance of what the game might look like,
Thumbnail.
It's hysterical. But yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt.
But yeah, no, Dag, take it away, because I'm
remember that, Dust. That 99, I was working at my first animation studio that was up in Connecticut outside of Hartford, and I didn't even have a PC or a laptop at the time. But we were animating on the computer already. And I remember the only reason we got to watch that Phantom Menace trailer relatively quickly was because we had a DSL. I don't think they had cable.
DSL,
they probably
big
had
sucking
DSL.
lips.
That too. But I love the multiple generational perspectives with stuff like this, because I do have so many distinct memories of that era. But what's breathtaking is that look how far it's come in 25 years. It's actually disturbing. And there's a lot of comedy in that, because the old age, these eons ago, it seems so antiquated. I remember my very first memory of the internet before I even knew really what any of this was. I was in art school in Philly in the mid 90s, and our school library was in the basement of the building downtown. And then below that, there was like a sub basement with a computer lab. And I was always very confused as to what went on in there, because I was already sort of enrolled in computer animation classes, early versions of Photoshop. We took a computer painting course called Fractal Paint. early version of Flash, like the first version of Flash, which was Shockwave back then.
That was Shockwave?
It was Shockwave
when
owned it before it went to Adobe, but it was called Future Splash.
I thought it was called Macromedia.
Macromedia was the one before Adobe. I guess it was.
Oh, right.
It was the baton was handed off 3 times. Yeah. So we were already relatively involved with computer animation and computer illustration, and the graphic designers were too. But they weren't. They were on this computer lab. People were down there, sort of like zombies, typing away, and I was always like, "What is this?" It turned out that was their little internet lab. And I didn't even know what the internet or email or anything was. This is 94, 95, 96. By the time I graduated in 98, it was already turning into, that was one of my very early memories with email was back then we would send actual physical Kinko's copied portfolios to animation studios. And a lot of those times you were kind of just cold calling, snail mail. You didn't even know if these studios were necessarily hiring, but you would just send out batches of portfolios traditionally. By the time I graduated in June of 98, it was already starting to turn to email. But it was a weird sort of a hybrid era because you would contact the studios through email if they had an internet presence, which some of them didn't. But you would still send out the traditional book or the traditional VHS reel. So it was kind of that hybrid era before it went to digital links to a portfolio or anything like that. But the funniest memories for me are thinking about Helene. At that time, we were just dating. We both graduated from art school in the late 90s, but she was living at home and living with her mom, dad, 2 sisters. So the 5 of them sharing that one PC computer, maybe an old shitty Compaq in the living room. Everybody had their respective AOL email address and they would share it. And it was kind of harmonious. Talk about hearkening back to an age where we weren't on the internet all the time. Maybe you spent an hour, you logged on, did a little emailing, AIM, the chat room thing was huge. Internet dating was just popping off. But it was enough to spend an hour and a half. I never remember an argument breaking out. I can't even imagine a 2023 family of 5 sharing one, God forbid, a phone or a computer or even a laptop. It would never work.
That's
because
wild.
Everybody has to be plugged in. It's Johnny Mnemonic style now. And, again, like thinking about how far we've come, I have really a funny thing when Dustin named this topic on email. I automatically thought this was the dawning of the era, too, of course, of just internet irresponsibility. Like people using it wrong, not realizing there was going to be consequences for their actions. I remember at work, just working in animation studios in the late 90s through the 2000s, aughts, and, probably through the early aughts. And probably through almost the 20 teens, I would say. Not quite as far as 2015, 2016. That's ridiculous. But certainly through like 2010 at least, AIM was the sort of staple for staying in touch with all of your colleagues at whatever given animation studio. Animation studio is just an office. So it's the same thing. It's just a glorified office, right? So whether you're working remotely or just intra-office, AIM was the way to stay in touch. And people, I remember, sometimes it was a smaller mom and pop shop, a little animation studio. Sometimes it was a larger studio, 150, 200 people. People would just get so honest and open and brazen with using AIM and talking shit about this producer or this boss, or I'm sick of it here, or this girl's got a nice ass. That I thought early on, like, there's no way that you should be doing this. First of all, in a small studio, somebody's just going to look over your shoulder. In a big studio, it's being monitored. But people either didn't care or didn't realize that. So talk about the Wild West. There was so much just controversy going on because of that all the time, because you're always working with a percentage of people that just use it badly, right? And I remember that being comedic, but also a little bit disturbing. It's people, watching people learn the hard way about how to use this technology, and then just the irresponsibility of, knowing that they're using it wrong, but doing it anyway, whether that was sexual harassment that went on around me or people fighting, feuding, just arguing over money, whatever it was, and just really being privy to that era where people just know better now, but they didn't back then. It wasn't just my age either, because, we're talking about being 20, 21 years old. I was super young at that point. It was watching the older people behave badly with the tech as well. I'll never forget that. And it didn't matter. It was always the same thing, no matter where I worked, which was, again, kind of comedic. And just really those two things, I think, realizing email was definitely the death knell of sort of the landline telephone. Like, that's when landlines went away. And then, of course, the early cell phones, flip phones came in, and that evolved into smartphones. But that seemed like it really was the end of landline telephones. And then the other things were, of course, the instant messenger thing and the chat room, which are kind of these bygone things now in only a couple of decades. And also the Canadian studios, this was always an odd thing, and I never really got an explanation for it. The Canadian animation studios that I worked for never used AOL Instant Messenger. They used MSN exclusively. And that was studios in Vancouver, in Ottawa, on the eastern side of Canada. It seemed like it was across the board, which was always an odd and funny thing to me, that they just would not or could not use AOL Instant Messenger. They always used MSN. It's a really funny memory. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, kind of get you guys to weigh in on this, because I'm so much younger, you guys are so much younger and I'm so much older, is that I'm old enough now that, and Helene, the same thing, and we were already dating at this time, but I completely missed online dating. I never got to dip my toes in the water. I mean, Helene and I were an item relatively early. I think I was 24 and she was 22 when we started going out, if I'm not mistaken. But so we were already attached. But that was the thing. Like, I just completely missed the online dating thing, which I think that's the one thing that's only gotten bigger even since then. Like, that's a really legitimate way. I guess it was then too, but even more so now. That's a really legitimate way to meet people and make connections, especially romantic connections. What are your guys' experiences with online dating, if any?
Well, for me, it's weird in that my type of quote unquote online dating wasn't necessarily meeting people outside of my school, I guess. But I think about it now, I didn't have very many girlfriends in high school, I think. And even in my life, I guess I've maybe had 4 or 5 girlfriends. And I know that 2 of them I first talked to over the internet, because for me, it was an easy. I mean, you would talk to people, just other people at school that maybe you knew a little bit, or maybe, you didn't know as well or something. But there were certain girls that I ended up talking to because I was not bold enough to talk to them in real life, but I was bold enough to type a quick message and say, hey, or maybe this girl you met one time briefly. And so to pursue them further in a face-to-face interaction would be a little weird, but you can say, oh, hey, you were at the show at the church basement. You're in this person's youth group, or you're in this class or whatever. And that was kind of a nice way to break the ice. But
yeah, you guys are lucky to have that.
Yeah. I have friend, one of my very best friends, Brandon, met his now fiance through a dating app. I think it's Bumble. That's one of them.
There's so many.
So it's definitely amazing how much that's changed things. But that's one of those things when I think about dating apps and what's the big one with the swipes that people use?
Oh, Tinder.
Tinder. Yeah.
Sure.
I have one time at an event, actually the same guy, Brandon, this was way before this girlfriend and his current fiance. He was showing me how Tinder worked, because I believe I was either married or Holly and I had been dating for a long time. He was showing me how Tinder works. I had no idea. I was like, I will never end up using this unless something horrible happens. But it was so stressful thinking about.
It's incredibly stressful. Yeah.
It's so stressful, and thinking about what it would do to your ego if you think something. And I guess that's just dating in general. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Over the internet, it's so surface level at the beginning. It's like, man, you rejected me after 3 things that I said over a message. It sounds tough.
It's inevitably surface level. Has any dating site that you guys know of broached that thing where you can make a connection not based immediately on appearance or all the surface level artifice? Like it automatically just goes deeper from the start. I don't know if anyone could get through that.
I don't know.
Right? How would you do that?
I also think that's I don't think it's a bad idea, but it's like the physical attraction is mega important.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
I mean,
it's arguably the first real hurdle.
Sure.
It's like, okay, it's like, all right, I'm attracted to this person. All right, well, are they shit? Okay, never mind.
Right, exactly.
I mean? It's like it's already kind of. Unfortunately, I feel like those apps are probably set up in the best way that they possibly could be set up.
Yeah, how else
I really don't think you could really do anything for. I haven't really used any of them, but it's interesting because I feel like I've met most of the people that I've dated through the internet in some way, but not through like dating apps. It's usually like a mutual follower on Instagram or something, or like we knew each other kind of in person, but like, or it's always that kind of thing where it's like, oh, you are vaguely familiar with what I do, I'm vaguely familiar with what you do. I mean, that was Lacey when Lacey and I were together. That was like that entire thing. I thought that was so funny because we were theoretically diametrically opposed. But I don't know. I've never. Dating apps always bothered me purely because, like, specifically like Tinder and stuff like that. Because I have to imagine that there are probably like the ratio of men on this has to be extraordinarily high.
I would think so.
And so like to me, it's just like why? So. And there's so many bots on those websites too. Like I remember friends of mine would be like, I'm talking to this girl, and I'm like, that's not a girl. That is a bot, and it's quite frankly astounding that you can't tell. It's like I'm actually mesmerized by it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, one of the YouTube rabbit holes I've fallen down recently is watching, there's this one catfishing company or whatever that like helps people basically come to terms with the fact that they've been catfished by people, and it's so interesting, like the lies and the delusions, like clear lies and delusions.
Yeah. Obvious,
like clear, like an obese 55-year-old woman in Mississippi talking to like a handsome oil rig worker who is stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from her at the same time. It's like, oh my God, what's wrong with you?
It's all scammers. So it's horrible. Yeah. Like you got to meet people organically, I think. Still, like I'm sure, like I think generally dating apps might work for some people. I know people who have met people through dating apps, but the success rate is very, very low from what I've seen. So like organic meeting to me is still prime. But I kind of wanted to pose this question. I don't know how much longer we want to talk about this, but I wanted to pose this question to Dagan specifically because he's in the animation sphere. And I wanted to know, because to me, I got really, really into animation. Like specifically, I was messing around with Macromedia Flash. I think it was Flash 6, or something. I
remember that
around 2005. I'm not super sure about the
what it was
number.
Then MX4, whatever.
Yeah, something. Yeah, Flash MX. Yeah.
MX,
yeah. And I was messing around with that stuff, and I was largely inspired not by like The Lion King or by things that were on television, but by the things that I was seeing on Newgrounds and Happy Tree Friends and Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny, and like these iconic, really crude
End of the World.
End of the World.
You remember that one?
I do.
I don't know. I'm going to write this down.
I am
End of the World.
Dude, that is. I am tired. I remember people would say that all the time.
Yeah.
And so that was like a big draw for me. And so for years I was like, and I didn't have like a Wacom or anything. I was drawing with a mouse. It was awful shit that I was making.
That's hardcore.
But it was super, it was super, I don't know, inspiring. And I wonder, from somebody who was like animating professionally, how that was interpreted, like that entire sphere, if that was even remotely paid attention to by people who were like, you know, professional, or like if anybody was paying attention to that stuff. Because to me, that was like earth shattering.
Yeah.
Because I always saw The Lion King and all this other stuff on TV as like, oh, that's something that, you know, that's for the upper class to do. Like, for some reason, that's how I thought about it. I was like, that's out of reach.
That's interesting.
And to me, like, the internet animations that I saw was like, oh, everyday people could animate? Like, I really had no idea. I thought it was something that you were like either born into or something. Like, I was really little and dumb. You know what I mean? I didn't know how any of this shit worked.
The gentry, the animation gentry. Yeah.
I really didn't know. Like, it fascinated me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think a lot of people feel like you, Chris, that of all generations, because I was raised by an aspiring animator, my grandfather. He never really did it professionally, but he was always very tuned into not only from an entertainment perspective, but from an industry perspective, and just, I think, always pining to do that for a career. He always paid really close attention to it, even when you couldn't get information on it in the 50s and 60s and 70s. So he was really the one that had me under his wing, and he taught me everything about it from a very young age, not just how to draw Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny, but, you know, these guys actually sit here in, you know, in Glendale, in Burbank, Walt Disney. He has a crew of guys. They do these films like Hanna-Barbera. Like, he knew, he was dialed in, even the New York stuff like Ralph Bakshi and Terry Toons up in White Plains and whatever, the last vestiges of Fleischer and the East Coast stuff. He went to the Art Students League with a lot of these animators. So he was a stylist. He was a beautician. He owned a salon, but that was always what secretly, not so secretly, he wanted to do. So I knew a lot coming in, but I think a lot of people are mystified by animation. It's sort of like this magical thing.
Yeah.
But the advent of Flash, and specifically cutout styled animation, which you could argue kind of came on the heels or was coincidentally or not coming off of things like South Park, where this lowbrow sort of style of animation that didn't necessarily require brilliant art, you know, craftsmanship or draftsmanship. It opened up a lot of avenues. So the animation, you know, profession, people in the animation profession were paying attention to it because it was another outlet for employment. And it was also a lower cost for entry because of those things. You didn't have to have the pedigree or the artistic chops of somebody who would go work at Disney feature animation, even now, because that required a certain level of skill and talent that maybe some people don't have, or a different level of ability. So it just opened up different avenues for people with different skill sets or just general creativity or different visions. And now Flash is still around, you know, it's called Animate now, but there's other programs sort of that Flash has evolved to. There's better programs for it now. Toon Boom Harmony.
Yeah.
Spline.
I know Blender has that grease pencil thing.
Blender's a huge one and a proprietary low cost for entry type thing that anybody could just get into now. But that was a big thing. I mean, Newgrounds specifically, I worked for an animation studio that subcontracted for Newgrounds, God, in the early 2000s, called Camp Chaos, who did a bunch of stuff for Newgrounds. But it was a whole thing. I mean, it still is. And then that played from the internet, you know, the .com boom where all of that stuff started to saturate. Then that played into TV. You know, then you started to get it on TV with things like Happy Tree Friends and other things. And now it's still a thing, you know. So it was an actual, you know, legitimate avenue for animation to go into. And I was lucky, I think, in a lot of ways, because I came out right on the heels of traditional animation. Like, my first couple of jobs in television were drawing on paper and flipping the giant animation sheets and stuff. But very quickly, it segued into the digital age with the tools like, back then, Macromedia Flash and cutout styled animation. And the nice thing about those tools, too, is that you could do full-on frame-by-frame hand-drawn traditional animation in those programs if you want to. You know, you could do a bevy of styles, not just not just, one or two ways. You could do anything you want. And that's another thing that plays into what you were saying too earlier, Chris, which is so exciting that when the technology became available for everybody to do it, but also the technology became available for everybody to share it.
Yeah.
And, we don't really need the big media companies anymore. And, I say that, with full disclosure that I work for Paramount. I mean, I work for Nickelodeon right now, but how much longer will we need these giant media companies for employment? If you have your own vision, you could share it with the world, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't, and maybe it's an instant hit and maybe it takes a long time to catch on. But those, and I should walk the walk instead of just talk the talk, because I'm one of those guys who's procrastinates, but it's so easy for us now, just like you do with your YouTube content. And you could do it. Anybody could do it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I was interested because I think about YouTube, how YouTube content is viewed by like traditional media, and how like there is some adversarial relationship there, where there's clearly some resentment, both in both directions. By the way, it bothers a lot of YouTubers to see Jimmy Fallon on the front page of YouTube, because it's like, what are you doing here? You already have your platform. Get it. And then I'm sure, like, from their perspective, it's like, what are these people like? What are these novices doing, making all this money, doing nothing, when I'm out here in front of an audience every night, like busting my ass? But to me, it's like, I guess I was curious if that attitude was in animation at all. If like there are people at like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or Disney who are looking at like Newgrounds being like, what are these guys?
I think that
what do they know?
Yeah, like a turning up of the nose at first.
Yeah.
But I noticed a very quick tendency to evolve and say, you know what, we need a piece of this. Let's take something like Nick Jr., which we all grew up with, especially you and Dustin and
yeah,
right.
And
the
Chris,
guy
you got
in between.
Yeah, you guys. I mean, we all grew up with Nick Jr. on television. Eventually, it made its way into cable on demand and all that kind of stuff. But then we saw the big media companies. For instance, I work for a Nick Jr. YouTube channel, where it's like, no, we need a piece of that as well. And the intent originally was, we're going to do YouTube. We'll have another media presence, and then we'll create this content or leverage content from TV, and then we'll turn the viewership back towards our cable entity, back towards our TV channel. So it'll be this cyclical thing.
like a pipeline.
And we're keeping people in our space no matter what they're on. The smartphone, mom and dad's iPad, the tablet, the television, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're on, right? And as long as we're getting the eyeballs, and not Cartoon Network, and not, Disney, and then Disney and Turner and everybody are doing that too. But then I saw it became big. Like, I think Nick Jr.'s YouTube channel has like 26 million subscribers. It's not small. And
That's
then
crazy.
they realized
That's wild.
This is an actual outlet for content, and we could create our own proprietary content and compete with Netflix and Apple and everything. And then it became this other level a couple of years ago, where it's like, then we're going to leverage that content and put it on, for instance, Paramount Plus.
Right.
So it becomes this whole thing where it's YouTube, it's traditional television with
Streaming
they're hanging on
services.
for dear life to that.
Transmedia,
And it's the subscription channels. It's just mass media. And so at first there was kind of a snobbery with that content is lesser than, and it's lowbrow, and it's it's crude. The humor is crude. The look of the art is crude. But then it was like, no, we should leverage this. Not only that, but it's cheap to make. A television cartoon, let's say in the early 2000s for Nick Jr. might have cost $200,000, $250,000, $300,000 per episode, right? Now they could produce an episode of something of the same length, let's say an 11-minute cartoon, for a fraction of that cost. So, and it still draws enough eyeballs to make it worth doing. Yeah. Which is interesting. And, you know what the other thing is that's really important to say? It opened up avenues for animation that wasn't just for kids. It finally, adult animation or animation for older kids or animation for older people started to catch on, where there was always, in the decades of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you look at those decades and you're like, there was always somebody trying to do something in that space, but it never really ignited, never caught fire. But with the advent of being able to do it cheaply and open it up to all kinds of creators, that really became, there became a marketplace for adult animation. And then that grew into higher, caliber content, more expensive content on the networks and the subscription channels and stuff. But it started with things like Newgrounds. They really did pioneer a certain style of not only the aesthetics, but the specific brand of humor that made animation in this country, in the West, not just for kids, which was really important.
Yeah, that was my first inkling that you could even have adult animation in the first place. Like, I know there were Family Guy and The Simpsons. It was predated that, but I wasn't really paying attention to that stuff because even when I was a kid, that felt, like whatever, like television.
Yeah.
But then seeing like Happy Tree Friends and being like, what the hell is this?
You could do this?
You could do this? This is allowed? Like, it really blew my mind that a cartoon could be that violent and sick.
And the only time, Chris, that ever existed prior to really the advent of the internet, let's be honest, was if you had small little mom and pop animation festivals like Spike and Mike's, where you could show that maybe at an indie art house in the bigger cities and share it with thousands of people rather than hundreds of thousands or millions of people. Now it was an actual legitimate thing that had an audience, that had a huge audience. And you guys grew up with that. You cut your teeth on that stuff. What makes me feel old is I was making it as you guys were, early on in my early 20s when you guys were watching it, which is interesting. But I always wonder if I would have had a successful animation career, because I'm much more of an illustrator and much less of a traditional, highly skilled draftsman. Like, I'm not going to work at Disney Feature, not in that way, not as an animator. So it did give us another avenue to realize maybe we're a little more stylized. Maybe we have a slightly different vision. Maybe we're more creative than artistic, artistically talented. Maybe our level of talent would have kept us at a lower echelon in the animation studio. So it really changed a lot for professional animation. I wonder where it's going to go from here, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, when I saw Steven Universe, I knew that they would let anyone draw. Dustin, are you?
You don't like Steven Universe?
Steven Universe taking people always make fun of the Cal art stuff. I wanted to make fun of it a little bit.
The Cal art style, the Rizzi style.
Dustin, are you satisfied?
I'd like to leave with one shout out to this ending bit about animation. That is shout out to Homestar Runner, the GOAT online animated show. And with that, I am satisfied.
All right, very well. Dagan, let's end with you.
You guys really grew up with Homestar, but I forgot about Homestar Runner.
Dude,
I don't think that's like Mickey Mouse levels of iconic in my head.
Absolutely.
Just the look of those characters and everything. Incredible. Forgot about that. They should bring it back. Maybe they are. I don't know.
They do it every once in a while, though.
They're bringing back everything, so why not?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Dies.
Just bring it back.
Nothing dies. There is no death.
There really
Sacred symbols will be resurrected by AI versions of all of us.
Yeah, by our children
in like 100 years. Yeah,
that hold
Somehow
sacreder symbols, just like Fuller House.
That is a good topic.
except my hat will say PTSD.
Mine too. All right, guys, we'll switch gears a little bit here. I wanted to know your take on this. I think how this spawned, I don't know if you guys are watching, but relatively new series on Netflix called Beef. I'm really enjoying it. Is anybody else watching it?
No, I haven't even
heard of it. I've seen a little bit of it.
You started? Okay. It's really, I don't want to spoil too much, but it's the first subscription series / TV series that I've seen in a while that caught my interest and kept my interest. I don't know what that is. I think the bar is set so high by the classics, but I'm really enjoying it. But it made me think about, the thing in our life, beefs, grudges, bad blood. I think there's kind of probably a lineage or an order. Like beef probably leads to grudges. Grudges could probably in all fairness be a separate topic. But just in general, I was thinking about, just the show made me think about the origins of beef in my life. And I'll start the conversation by saying I am a guy that just likes things on an even keel. I don't even like arguing, like even small, relatively tiny arguments with my wife. Like, I just don't like that, going to bed upset with each other. Like, I'm just like a guy, let's not rock the boat. I think I kind of have a little bit of a cloying personality, in all fairness, where I think it's nice if people like me. I don't like when people don't like me. It doesn't sit well with me. I'm a little bit of a coward with that. But I generally think it's just my personality to want things on an even keel. I'm neurotic and anxious enough. I don't need more shit. And so that's kind of my attitude. But it made me think there was always, I guess at every point in my life, there's always been beef with specific people. I think back to my earliest beefs and two specific bullies in my life. One I've spoken about a lot on the various podcasts. But I had another bully in high school. And this was a beef that reminded me, it was kind of an echo of my elementary school beef with the bully, in that there was no rhyme or reason to it. I don't know why either one of these guys didn't like me. I have no idea what I did to these people. They just picked me out of a hat. They decided they weren't going to like me.
Mom and dad weren't helping you with the name, right? I mean, in the 70s? Come on.
Yeah, that's a good point. The name probably wasn't helping, or at least if they didn't like the cut of my jib, they could just say, you know what, you have a fucked up name. Like, who has that name? It's 1978 with that name. Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
And so, what do you think this is, 2015?
Fuck you.
So they just needed a reason. So the name was always that's a great point. The name was always a big thing, but it always felt so random to me. And it always felt so unfair to me. It was like, why does Corey in elementary school want to beat me up? I didn't do anything to him. And then more so, because I've talked about Corey a lot, poor Corey, but this thing in high school was bad on two fronts. First of all, Colin and I talk about this from time to time. We went to a very tough high school. It was very mixed, sort of socioeconomically. We went to school with very rich kids. We went to school with the Hineses. Yes, the ketchup family. And we went to school with kids who I remember in elementary school couldn't afford a phone in their house. So it was a very steep, dramatic, sort of swath of people, a variety of people. No hyperbole. I mean, the poorest kids in the world and, some of the richest, that just, and probably a lot of those families were very liberal. Their kids went to public school when they could have went to private school.
Definitely not the poorest in the world, but poorest in our area for sure. Yeah.
Poorest on Long Island. Poorest on Long Island, which is a big suburb. And I remember specific kids that just, they were just low income families, and then everything in between. But what always struck me about, being terrorized by the bullies was that it always seemed unfair. When I got to high school, because of the nature of some of the kids and the toughness of the kids and stuff, I always laugh about this, but it was really true that my biggest fear in high school was getting beat up by a girl, because there were girls, and I don't mean this to sound sexist, but you got a channel. I went to high school in the late 80s. I graduated in 92.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Different time.
There were some tough kids that I went to school with. There were definitely girls that I went to school with that could have very easily done the job. And how do you live that down?
I'm the job.
Well, why would it have happened?
I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason to why I thought to the fear. Yeah. It was just a fear that, I was very, very aware, and I was very careful not to step on toes and just kind of mind my manners and all that kind
in
of stuff.
case a girl beat you. It's like the rate.
Because there was a couple.
Crazy.
And I think that idea was egged on by the girl fights that we saw in the hallways. Yeah. They were pretty intense. Little. And that stayed a thing 10 years later when you were in high school, Kyle.
Oh my God. I've said that the most violent things I've ever seen with my own two eyes happened in Bellport High School.
Vicious.
Like to this day. Yeah. Like people getting the shit beat out of them, heads bashed against walls, like knives drawn out, like totally the most heinous things I've ever seen. I have no idea where South Country School District gets off having a school like that. It
was bad.
It was weird. I don't know if it's like that anymore, but it's not good.
Yeah. I went, we had a metal, just to tell you that, how tough of a school district it was. We had metal detectors by the late 80s already. And we had a Suffolk County police officer whose beat was our parking lot. That was where he was every day. It wasn't a security guard. It was a cop. So I know that's a relatively common thing in inner city areas, but we lived 45 miles from Manhattan. We were in the sticks. So that was, just to kind of demonstrate what kind of atmosphere we're talking about here. And also the nature of the fights were always so fast. It was a flurry because they knew it had to happen quick. So these people would kill each other before it could get broken up. So it was kind of a horrifying dynamic. And the other thing, my second fear was being beat up by an underclassman. Again, I don't know why I would fear this, but when I was in 11th grade, I didn't want to get beat up by a 9th grader. Yeah. How can you live down the shame of that? Sure enough, when I was in 11th grade, there was this random 10th grader who didn't like me. And I remember he was kind of a lacrosse jock. I didn't know him. I probably knew of him because our sister Dana was a year younger than me in school. So she was he was in her grade, and he wanted to kick the shit out of me. It just came out that he wanted to fight me after school. I didn't even know this kid. I had no idea where any of this was coming from. Seriously, it was completely random. And so I was getting bullied by somebody who was a year younger than me. Back in high school, that feels like a big deal. Yeah, like if a 48-year-old was bullying me now, would it be a big deal? But when you're 16, if a 15-year-old is bullying you, it's like, what the fuck, type of thing.
It's a drastic change.
There was no reason for it.
Yeah.
There was, honestly, I could not, and I was an introspective dude. I'd be like, did I do something? What could I have possibly done to him? I was out skateboarding with my friends. This guy was in a whole different clique. Like, he was on the lacrosse field, and so we weren't in class together. I have no idea what I could have done. So that was a beef I had. And again, it was like, why do I have this beef? But of course, the beef ends up working both ways because you get resentful that this person is putting you through this. So it is an actual legitimate beef because you're upset because you're like, what the fuck? Not only are you going to get the shit beat out of you by someone younger and the public shaming aspect of that, but also why are they doing this? I don't know. That actually turned out that my younger friend, Adam, who is one of my best friends, who happened to be a year younger than me too, he was in the same class as the lacrosse jock, actually beat the shit out of this kid after school for me, which was another level of shame, but not as bad as getting beat up by the kid. So Adam sort of rescued me, and it was sort of like, why did your younger friend have to? Adam was a lot bigger than me and a lot stronger than me and a lot tougher than me, so it worked out. But those two beefs were, those were early beefs for me. And again, the random nature of that. The only other one I had as a kid, there was this kid, this dandy. He was like this foppish. I just remember he was like this foppish, nerdy kid named Bradley. I don't even remember his last name. And he might have been a year younger than me too, but he was that kid in the neighborhood that just got everything. He was like spoiled rotten. And he just had everything, every toy, every G.I. Joe toy, every Transformer. I think he was the first kid who got like the big Matchbox die-cast Voltron toy. Like he was the one who just had everything. And that was fine because I had a couple of friends who were very spoiled, a couple of good friends, but they were super cool about it. This kid was so uppity about it and snobbish, and he would let you know he had the thing you kind of pined for. And he was nasty. He was just kind of a nasty dude. And I think because I was a nicer kid and would never make somebody feel bad about not having anything, plus I was very wanty and got very little, where you got this spoiled brat kid, this Reginald type kid who's just
Reginald.
He's got everything, That was another beef where it was like that was a beef where I realized it was just about two different personalities. It was about, you could have that thing, but like you're so guarded with it. You want anybody to touch it. You won't share it. You want to let everybody know you have it, just in a nasty way. And then it was like a thing where you realize as a kid, like, I just have to agree to disagree. Like this kid's not going to be my best friend. We're just too different. We're interested in the same things. So it'd be kind of fun to play like with our Star Wars figures together, but he's just too much of a dick. I think that was my first thing, was like as a 7-year-old realizing what a dick was. And it was just like, I don't know.
You dick.
How. You dick. I don't know how we could do that.
My Spicoli impression.
I love the first story you told specifically. Reminds me so much of that. There's like an iconic SpongeBob episode where like this guy in his boating school is like, I think I'm going to beat you up. It's just the whole episode of him being afraid of getting beat up for no reason by this guy.
That's maybe that is the nature, like the typical nature of bullying. Maybe that's the course it usually takes, where it doesn't seem like the bully's almost picking a name out of a hat. Just got to be a bully.
Yeah.
Type of thing. There's no reason. He wasn't wronged in any way. It's just like
there are people that I remember in high school that I hated for no reason. I would never like make it known to them. I would never like make life hard for them.
Right.
Or like accost them in any way. But I would specifically go out of my way to avoid those people. And specifically, I would have these really, really strong visceral feelings of like, I really don't like this person. And I didn't really have a reason, like a good one, like a foundation. It was always like these like out of context Seinfeldian circumstances that I would see. And I would be like, that's somebody. It's like that Seinfeld episode where like the girl thinks he's picking his nose, but he's like scratching the side and he makes a whole judgment based on that. It's just that.
That's all it is.
You know? That's all it is when you're that young.
It's funny that you bring up Seinfeld, Chris, because
it's not that funny. I do it all the time.
Well, you know what? It's a direct parallel for me and Bradley, this little foppish spoiled kid, because it was a very Jerry Newman dynamic. It was like, hello, Bradley. It was like, hello. He didn't like me because he knew I didn't like him. But before I hand off this baton, let me, as I got older, I realized, well, what are my adult beefs? You're a guy likes to keep things on an even keel. You don't like to rock the boat. Let's, if we have any kind of beef or a misunderstanding, maybe we could squash it. I was always of that mind. I don't like the baggage of having, enemies. I think that's what it comes down to. But there's been, in my 25-year career in animation, there's been 4 times where I left a job badly, where I didn't leave on good terms. And 2 of those were completely my fault. And both of them were relatively early in my career. And both of them, I would say, I betrayed a boss. Both of them were small animation studios, very tiny outfits, mom and pop shops. Both of them were bosses that I would say kind of introspectively really cared about me. Beyond just like they had my best interests at heart. They were fair. And it was almost that kind of environment is almost like a family, where you have only like 10 employees and you're doing these projects together. It's scrappy. It's sort of this guerrilla outfit where you're just trying to stay afloat. And both times I left badly, where I could see now that my bosses felt betrayed. One, I left the studio for another opportunity where my boss was overseas for a few weeks and never even talked to him about it. And he was very good to me. And then the other one was a similar situation where I got hot over something creatively. And I left without having another job lined up. And I was out of work for a while because of it. But both times I could see that I was the asshole. I created the bad blood and I burned bridges, which I'm going to save burning bridges for another episode. But I realized that I had created the bad blood, which, by the way, with both these people lasts to this day, which I shot myself in the foot because that closed a couple of doors for me. But also I feel bad about it. And there's no way to really remedy the situation beyond an apology because the damage is already done, especially when you leave it in a way where you're kind of leaving them high and dry. So let me pass it over. You guys go in any direction you want. Those are my little tales, but
yeah, I have something to say about this when you're ready.
I was just going to say, I think it weighs on, I just think the nature of myself, it weighs, these things still weigh on my conscience. One happened 2002 and the other one happened in 2007. I think, to my best recollection. Yeah, because our first kid was born like 4 weeks later. And I think I still feel bad about it, I realized, I was dealing with these dicks in my younger years, but then I kind of I flipped the script. I became the dick. So let me pass it off to you guys.
Yeah, it's funny, Dick, in thinking about this, like I have a couple of things to discuss, but what I'll say is in my younger years, because I consider like bullying, not liking someone, avoiding someone, all that, that's not what you're really talking about. And I don't think I had any interactions quite like we were describing as a kid. You know, I really also, and I think everyone does, like I wanted to be liked. I was kind of distressed when people didn't like me too. But it wasn't a beef. It was like, I want this person to like me. I have no beef with you at all. If I could just flip a switch and have you like me, that would be much easier and more beneficial for me. But it wasn't really until the adult world and specifically the professional world that I started to both be the target of beefs, what I would call like phantom beefs, because they're not shared reciprocally by me at all. And then like a couple of real beefs, I would say. I also want to separate out a term I use all the time, which is schadenfreude, which is taking pleasure in people's misfortune. That's something everyone does, whether they admit it or not, based on, and it's not just like general fucking misfortune and generalized people experiencing, it's people that have done you wrong. The one thing that I will admit 100%, and it's probably a character flaw, it's up to you guys, is that I remember what everyone said and did in my past. Like when they did me wrong or said something wrong or something was out of place, I remember. It's very difficult for me to let go of those things because I feel like they're slights that are not reciprocated in any way. And that's where I think beefs kind of could result from. But I want to say, like, I'm not talking about any of that stuff either, because I have schadenfreude just like everyone else does with a lot of different things. Oh, you tried to destroy my career and talk shit about me and spread lies about me and you lost your job. Oh, bummer. You know, I think that's kind of a feeling anyone would feel. It's not a human.
It's justice, a sense of justice.
Right. It's like, that's a character flaw maybe, but that is something that I do feel. I have a memory of an elephant with that shit. And I remember what it felt like to be talked about and all those kinds of things. But I'll say this. The first thing is that I think the only beef that I might have ever really had as an adult was with that Bob guy that I worked with at IGN. And what was weird about this was I know how it started. It was my fault. But I was immediately apologetic, and all he had to do was just let it go at that very moment, and we could have probably been friendly with each other. So what ended up happening was in 2000, I want to say it was 2012, like the spring of 2012, me and Andrew Goldfarb's the head of communications at Sucker Punch now. At this time, he was at IGN News, and he and I went to Santa Monica Studio, invited with a bunch of people to go see PlayStation All-Stars, which was at the time called codename Title Fight, people might remember. And we also saw The Unfinished Swan and like a Fat Princess game or something. I don't know. And Andrew and I were at the gate at SFO, and this Bob guy comes up to me, but I don't really know him. Now, the important context is IGN had, I think the year before, bought oneup.com, which is where he worked. And they moved into our office. And there wasn't, again, beef or any animosity between us, but at IGN, we were kind of like, why did we even do this? Like, we don't even know what the point of any of this was. So there's a little bit of weirdness there. And I think they felt weirdness too, because they were much smaller than us and they weren't really getting the support, and they eventually got shut down. I mean, it was like actually for nothing that they were even bought at all.
Yeah.
But he worked in the office, and he came up to me now and up to us and say, hey guys. And I'm like, you have to understand, and backing up, I guess, is that working at a place like IGN, you get recognized a lot. And it's not like constant, but like you'd have a waiter at a fucking restaurant that would know who you are. You get recognized by the TSA person. Like, it happened, right? So I always had this posture of being like, oh, hey, I'm Colin. What's your name? Like, oh, nice to meet you. Thank you. Because you're always assuming that a person's talking to you and it's like, but it was him. But I didn't recognize that he worked with me. And that was rude on my part. Like, but I immediately apologized. I'm like, oh my God, because he was like, I work in your office or whatever. I'm like, it was embarrassing. And I'm sure it was embarrassing for him, and it was embarrassing for me.
Right.
And so I remember going down there and trying to kind of make it up to him, inviting him out to dinner with us. I think at that point he kind of had it set in his mind that he was not going to like me. And that's really where it came from. And in my opinion, he kind of gleamed on to a bunch of other things that justified why he didn't like me, but it definitely came from that moment. There's like no doubt in my mind. And I did and do feel bad about it. Like I can understand how that would be embarrassing and unfortunate that like the senior editor of the site that just bought you didn't know who you were or whatever. And it was not personal. Like, I didn't mean anything by it.
And it wasn't intentional.
No, but I think that he kind of, I kind of became like this target to him, like, especially after he got laid off and all of these kinds of things, where he would just go. I mean, and people that were around there know, like, because a lot of people were like, well, why would you guys go back and forth? And I'm like, dude, if you really separated out the things we were saying to each other, it was always started by him, and he said way more things. I know that that's not like a justification, but it's not like I was out there taking shots. I really wasn't.
Right.
Like I dare people to go find one of those fucking untoward, just random off the top rope things I did to him, you know? But it became this beef, like this reciprocal beef where we were trying to dunk on each other and all these kinds of things. And to me, I kind of just let it go. It seemed like he kind of maybe let it go at some point too. I think because from my perspective, I think people were looking at it and probably saying to him, I mean, they were certainly saying to me, mutual friends and stuff, like he kind of, it's not really coming off very well for him. And I think someone finally got to him on that point. But I think that would be the only thing that I would call a beef. And I think that that's even what I would describe, and I will describe in a minute, as a phantom beef, because we used to have a professional beef with each other, I guess, in some way, but like, not for nothing, I've done so much substantially, but laughed him so many times that it would be almost cruel to have some sort of real beef with this person anymore. We're not in the same area anymore. So it's like you kind of have to like walk away from those things. And I know that probably drove him insane, right? Because it seemed like he was very focused on this. But that would what I would be considered as, and that wasn't even like, the thing about it is that and I thought about it several times of emailing him or reaching out over the years and be like, let's just squash this. Like, but I knew that he was the kind of, or I felt like he was the kind of person that would just make it public and try to embarrass me and whatever. There would be no reciprocity. So it's like, why put yourself out there like that? So I think we both kind of agreed to just let it go. And that would be what I would consider to be like kind of one of the central, not the only, but like one of the central professional beefs as an adult I had. And it all started, in my opinion, because of that. And then he would later like, oh, he's a Republican, he this and that, but that never came up. That was never a thing before that moment, right? So I think it's fairly obvious what happened. And I will admit that it started because of my fault, but I did try to make it better. And it's such an interesting butterfly effect. If he just accepted that it was a mistake at that moment, it probably nothing would have ever occurred at all. Like, but it's been years, I think, since we really even had that kind of discourse, which is good. And then before I end, I'll just talk about phantom beefs, which I think are like, there are many people out there that think we have beef, right? But I'm like, you are a Twitch user with 5 followers. We don't have a beef. No offense. And I always think about that game dad guy that like hates me on Twitter, right? It's like, we don't have a beef. You have a beef with me, but you stream to 2 people at a time. There are a lot of people with 2 people watching that have a beef with me. That's not a beef. There has to be some sort of reciprocity. Otherwise, it just becomes what I would consider one-sided bullying of another person, you know? So it's important that both people buy in or it's not a beef. Yeah. And that's what I would call a phantom beef, where it's like, we're rivals. It's like, no, I don't think so. Like it's literally the Don Draper in the elevator, I don't think about you at all.
Right.
Image. With literally every one of these people that come into my timeline, thinking that we have like this, anything that like I owe them anything or I have anything to say. So there's a lot of one-sided beefing. And I think for everyone's, just for your own self-respect, make sure that if you have a beef, it's got to be shared. It's like, it's another word. It's a synonym for a rivalry in some way, or you can't, it is just bullying. If you're just going on and on and on and on about a person on the internet and they never say anything back about you, that's bullying. That's not a beef. That's weird. And that's obsessive. That's the latter situation I'm describing. And that I don't participate in. And these days, I don't know that I have really any beefs with anyone. But again, not to confuse it with the Schadenfreude. Dude, I would have a fucking Santa Claus list. I'd fucking pull this thing out. It would be a parchment. It would roll on the ground. It would go down the stairs of all the people I'm rooting against. Okay? Yeah, I'm just straight up. But it's not like it doesn't, like, it's not a part of my life. I just make note of it. Right. It's like, oh, this outlet's done. They wrote this hit piece about me. This journalist got laid off. He fucking called me this. It's like, yeah, I have that list. Again, not a beef.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. That's all I have to say. Chris.
I was thinking about this a lot. And I feel like I'm a lot like Dagan, where like I just kind of I like things even keeled. I like to know that the last interaction I have with a person is a positive one. You know what I mean? Like, that's just generally how I feel about it. And in my adult life, I don't know if I've had any real... There are people that I didn't like intensely, who didn't like me intensely. But that feeling is always like very fleeting or in the moment of something. Like, there were people I remember... I mean, not to bring this up again, but it's relevant. when Lacey and I first got together, there were a bunch of people losing their shit, like really like saying really out of pocket shit. And I remember that. And I remember those people. I remember who they are. And I have like I would say I have a very small list. There's maybe like 4 people that I have on a list of people. Like, I remember how you reacted to this very, very normal thing in a very, very out of pocket, really confusing way. And because of that, my perception of you is forever skewed in a very specific direction. And it's a direction that I'm not favorable towards. But I don't think about these things really ever. And generally, how I go about it is if I'm still thinking about somebody that did me wrong for over a year, I'm not doing enough. Like, that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like, I'm not doing enough with my actual life if I'm still thinking about this. Is how I live, right? So right now, I couldn't name one person that I have a genuine beef with, because I just don't give a shit. I have too much going on to care. I'm doing too much to care. I'm generally speaking, there's so many people who don't like me for no reason that, like, what the hell, like, what do I need to focus on one hyper specific person for? I'm already anxious as is. I don't need this extra energy. Like, I don't need this extra weird, like this weird extra judgment for this person. And also just, I'm very aware that people, I don't know, make mistakes. I'm very aware that people can change pretty drastically over periods of time. So, like, I try not to hold anything against people too much, because I think everybody's been in a situation where it's like they look back and it's like, wow, I was really stupid. And that was like a really dumb decision I made, or that was like a really dumb thing that I said, or that was a really dumb way that I acted, or that was a really irresponsible. And you acknowledge that. There are people that, I mean, I'm sure I've done wrong too, where I think about it regularly, where it's like, this is like years old at this point, but should I apologize? And then there's also the other things where it's like, it's probably better that I don't, right? Like, it's almost, I agree. It's almost better. It's almost better to just kind of, your gift is to just kind of like be gone.
That's interesting. It's like opening old wounds.
Yeah, let it go.
Limitations.
Because then at a certain point you're doing it for you. It's like, this bothers me, so I need to apologize, and you don't even think about the fact that you reintroducing your chaotic self into this untainted life. Is like,
it's so interesting you think that, Chris, because for me, it's like and I think maybe a lot of people would say this about them, but I think people that know me know that I really do try to carry myself in a certain way. I try to treat people with a certain amount of respect. I try to be kind and decent. And so, like, when you kick me when I'm down, or you root against me or try to call for my downfall or do any of these things, it's not like I'm thinking about it every day, but it's like, I'm going to remember that when your name pops up and you're in a bad situation. And I'm going to give you as much grace and love as you gave me, and that's literally, I can't let that stuff go. Like, it's not, I don't think it's consuming me. It's just, when I see things pop up, I'm like,
no, that's fair. I mean, people would say, people would say it's a character flaw of mine that I'm very, very forgiving, because I'm very keenly aware of just ways that I have acted towards people that are just like really fucking unfair. And like, I would never do that again. But I would also feel like I understand why people would want to hold that against me, but I would also be kind of disappointed if they did. Not for their sake, but just, for my sake, and just the idea of, just, I don't know, you roll with the punches and you just sort of live and let live is kind of my opinion. And like, there are people who kicked me when I was down that I do remember. And when I see them going through some kind of tough time, there is some schadenfreude in that, but I will almost always reach out and I will always say, hey, I hope things are, I hope things improve, like, sincerely.
Yeah.
Cause then you look, first of all, that's an awesome petty way to just look.
Yeah, that's very meta.
It's a passive aggressive hit, but it's also not ungenuine.
Yeah.
Because with the exception of, like, I don't know, if you're like a Jared Fogle type, you know what I mean? If you're somebody like that, like, I don't know if I give that much of a shit. But like, if you've just like kind of done me dirty or whatever, that sucks. But I can't. A lot of times there are people who have apologized to me, right? It's like, hey, I'm sorry about this, and I'm like, I don't recall this at all. but I accept it. That's fine. Like I really would not have remembered this had you not. Like we could have had a totally fine conversation, because like my memory is so, like my brain is already my mind is moving at like so at Mach 10 already, like with so many different things going on. I can't have this like detailed laundry list of like everything that every single person's done. I just don't have the energy for it. And it's also just easier for me to just be a forgiving person. Like whatever, like you did this, whatever. I'm not going to be so forgiving that I let things happen more than once.
Right.
You know, you're not gonna like take advantage of my forgiveness and then just like do the same shit again, and then I'm gonna let it slide. No.
Yeah, there's a
difference. There's a difference between being a pushover and being a genuinely gracious, forgiving person. And I think that's kind of, I acknowledge mistakes. I acknowledge that people often act in ways that they themselves are ashamed of and embarrassed by. And I acknowledge that that's part of like the everyday human condition. And I also acknowledge that there are many times throughout my life that I've noticed this happening, where I have been in a situation where the person on the opposite end of me is where I was. You know, where like you end up or you end up disappointing somebody in a very specific way that somebody else has disappointed you. And you feel like, oh, that's what it's like to be on this side of this exact equation. And I'm just very aware that there's like a cyclical nature to life and its lessons. And just generally, like, this is kind of leaning into the problem I have with the internet at large, is that there are people who hold grudges for way too fucking long. People bring up like tweets from like 2009 or something, and it's just fucking embarrassing. And by the way, I see this happen. This isn't even like a specific political side. It's every single person. It's like, oh, this person, well, remember this? Oh, remember this? It's like, dude, let it go, dude. Are you serious? You're bringing up like out of context statements from like 18 years ago to dunk on this person who like had a miscarriage? The fuck are you doing?
No, that's exactly right. That's why, by the way, that's why I don't tweet. That's why I don't tweet.
Shit.
I just don't
Right, but that's another reason why I try to carry myself in a way that's forgiving, because I don't want to be one of these people who, like, when something bad happens, I get to like, I dig back into the files like a gremlin and pull out like, oh, well, this is why this is okay or something. You know what I mean? It's just like, everybody needs to fucking relax and be human again. And I think, you know, there's only so many ways to do that now, but I think the way that I found is to just generally, you know, let things go. You know, things happen, whatever, misunderstandings happen, rivalries happen, you butt heads sometimes creatively, sometimes you disappoint people, sometimes they disappoint you. But who has the time? Who has the time?
Seriously. It's true.
That's how I feel.
What do you have to say, Dustin?
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out what to say, because for me, I think I'm really in line with Chris in that I've never really had a long, outstanding beef with somebody. I've thought that there's been opportunities for me to do that. I just simply don't care and don't want to spend the mind share on it to have a problem with someone or an ongoing conflict with somebody I don't know or did know or isn't really part of my daily life in any way. It just doesn't seem practical, I guess, in some ways. For me, it's the thing about beefs is the thing that always is tough for me is beef with people you care about. And that's the thing that is hard and overwhelming to me often. And I don't know, maybe I guess this is a strength and a weakness at the same time, is that for me, it's hard to deal with ongoing beef amongst people you care about, because I want to be a peacemaker. I'm not necessarily good at that. But that's in the, you know, thinking back to friends I've had where sometimes it's tough because you realize that maybe the best way forward is to not be friends. And you kind of just go your separate paths with some level of mutual respect and understanding. And that's okay too. But I don't know. I think that's really all I have to say. Like thinking back to like some of the bully stuff. Like I never had any kind of bullies or beef with people growing up. I think it's just because I had just enough strength to stick up for myself that I never became a target, which was nice. And I just didn't, I don't know, I never cared about attacking people. For me, it's always been the thing of I guess it's not even beef at that point. There's people that I don't respect that I'll make fun of, but never to them and never publicly. It's something for me and a close friend that's also involved. Be like, look at this fucking idiot. And then you move on. It's almost like a moment of relief just to laugh about it. But I don't know. I'm just not. Obviously, everyone is going to be involved in a lot of conflicts, but to me, it's always about minimizing conflicts and trying to avoid them when possible, and figuring out the steps to.
Life is conflicting enough without man-made conflicts. You know what I mean?
Seriously.
Like you're already in a constant. You're already in a constant war with the environment. You know, the sun is trying to give you cancer every moment of every day. The last thing I need to worry about is whether or not some weirdo. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whether or not the last thing I have to worry about is like whether or not 8 people that I don't know very much have a deeply misconstrued opinion of where our relationship is. You know, like I can't.
Yeah, there's power in that. You know, the one thing you spoke about too, and I think everyone's kind of touched on it, and Dustin, you did for sure, is like the shame of kind of beefing costing you something with someone else that has nothing to do with it, but that their connection is that they have to take a side or feel the need to take a side. Like when I think of that situation with Bob, I always think about the fact that like I was pretty friendly with Jeremy Parrish, you know, who was the Retronauts host, and he was at One Up for a really long time, and he worked at IGN when I was there, and I considered him, I don't know if a friend, but certainly an acquaintance. We had fun in Japan. He showed me around one day, and like, because he's very familiar with it, and we had a friendly rapport, and I really looked up to him. Actually, I think I admire him. And I always said like, there are a few people in the industry that I'll admit straight up just know more about games, like straight up know more than me. And he's one of them. Like he knows everything. Right. And he might not like me for other reasons since then. I don't know, but I know that he started, you know, not liking me, especially because of that. And you don't blame him because he's picking a side, and I've done the same thing with people too. Right. But it is a shame that kind of stuff comes in. So it makes you want to kind of bury that beef or whatever. But the thing is that I can at least hold my head up high. Even if I have the weakness of Schadenfreude, I hold my head up high knowing that I have personally not instigated any beefs with anyone. Like I know that because I am to go along, get along. Like as long as we have a baseline respect with each other. And because you were saying like, I think you said something, Dustin, like understanding and like walk away with understanding and respect. I'm like, I think you only need to walk away even with understanding. Like it's like when a war ends, there's no respect between the two sides. They just understand it's over. And I think that almost is like not something that people are even able to personally get towards, which is disappointing. But I think that has a lot to do with it too. But the whole bullying thing, that's like a whole nother topic. Yeah.
It does. It really, I mean, I love what Chris was saying, actually. It really spoke to me about just the philosophy of the tendency of at least trying to forgive, because it speaks to, you know, karma in some way. That's what we would like of other people, right? That's how we want to be treated. So to put that energy out, but also what Chris was saying, the natural dynamic of just letting things play out over time, and how just by nature, the very evolution of that will show you whether some grudge or some beef or everything, if it fades with time or if it stays sort of painful or present or fresh in some respect. It's a natural vetting process almost, right? Yeah. And those are the real challenges, are the ones that linger, are the ones that you really feel like are as of yet unsquashed. There's another thing too. We talk about people that we know that like hold on to beef and hold on to grudges. I can think of very specific people in my life like that, where they just hold on to that toxic energy that really kind of actually reverses itself on the person, and I think becomes poisonous to them, you know. But I can't imagine. It's almost like, I don't like Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol levels of bogged down with these chains. Like, how can you not try to at least purge yourself of these beefs? And those are the people too that are like beef magnets. Like they sort of just collect it. It's like, how can you even move? You're so saddled with these heavy weights. And you know, that speaks to what we're saying, just the busy nature of life the level of just natural anxiety anyway in this world. Like we don't need to compound it.
Right.
You know, so if you're having beef out there, you know, that would be my biggest advice is like, just try to like break free of those shackles, because that's really what it is, right? It's just something that, I don't know, you got to, sometimes it's probably easier said than done, but I guess you always got to try to find a way to squash it, you know, sort of for both parties. So you could, you know, make a fresh start and just kind of relieve yourself of that baggage. That's really what it is just baggage. You're just saddled with this weight that you don't want to be carrying, but you're lugging it around.
Yeah.
It's a deep issue. Like, I don't know, man. Interpersonal relations, like the core of being human. I think everyone deals with it in just different ways, and managing that kind of stress. And like, I think I'm not antisocial, because that's not true. I don't really bog myself down with too many interpersonal relationships. I say over and over again, and I mean it, like the people I love and care about don't get enough of me without me bringing on 10 more fucking people onto the roster or whatever that I just not mistreat, but just, you know, relegate to some side, like some, when I can give them time or whatever. And I don't know. I think that this is an interesting topic, but I'm glad you brought it to the table, Dagan. Are you satisfied? Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, no, thanks for weighing in on that, man. It was fun.
Yeah, no problem. All right, my friends, that's it. That's our 4 topics. So it's time to go. Let's go around the horn and say goodbye to everyone, starting with Dustin in his Iron Maiden shirt.
Yes.
What do you have
Well,
to say?
here's the thing. They are doing a UK tour, and they announced some dates in Canada. Not happy about this. We need some US dates for the Somewhere Back in Time tour. Please make it happen. This is fun. Excited. Well, I'm recording another show today, but so the day's not quite over yet for me, but it's nice that it's the weekend. Everybody have a nice time.
Chris, closing comments.
I don't know. I woke up kind of sick today, so I'm probably gonna
Die.
I don't know. What do you? Yeah, probably die. What do you? All I have is NyQuil, but like I don't know how much of that you're supposed to have in like a given day.
It's probably on the bottle,
Yeah,
like
it's
couple.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna read it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough.
I don't have, who's got time
Half
to
a bottle should be fine.
It's just alcohol. Just drink some bourbon and go to bed.
That's a good idea. I'll make myself like 10 Moscow Mules, and then I'll surely
that sounds good right now.
Surely that'll help.
All right, Dave. Closing comments.
I wasn't gonna do this, but I need to ask you guys' opinion on this. Talk about passive aggressive. Should I do this? Let me bookend the conversation with what I started with today. This I can't get over this animation studio. Well, it's not even an animation studio. This company that rejected me 45 minutes after I applied. I did notice that they have a very adjacent job opening to the one I applied for. Very similar role. Should I apply?
Yeah, absolutely.
With the same resume and just not put down my race, sexual orientation, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, you should. I would actually be interested in you doing it with all of the same parameters, though, because then if you get rejected, then you also have more data to work with in the other direction. You know,
Maybe.
In other words, one is not really enough. I say go fucking full kamikaze. Put you're a white male, white straight male, apply, and just see if they shut you down again. You know?
All right, I'll think about it. I'll think about that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if because I want to know. I feel very insecure that they just don't like my work.
You're going to be even more insecure.
I'm almost hoping that they are rejecting me because I'm a.
That's what I'm saying.
I would feel so much better if I was rejected for like who I was intrinsically than my work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I'm very insecure. Yeah, this is real. It's not good. I'm admitting publicly that I'm not very healthy. My ego is not very healthy.
But Dagan, if you get rejected again, then you just got rejected twice and you still don't know why. So it's like, what is it? You know, that's like another, like now you have even more questions. And what if you got rejected for one because of one thing and one because of the other thing? You know, what if they were like, we don't want this white guy, and then they threw you away, and then the next time you come through and they're like, well, all right, let's look at his work, and then he's really insistent. You know,
should I just say I'm like an Eastern Indian lady who's young?
Black lesbian.
And if they
can't
do
go wrong
hire
with black
me,
lesbian. Can't go wrong.
I'm angry. I'm also doing it because I think it's funny. Let's be
Indigenous,
I think it's a little bit funny.
Indigenous to spirit. lesbian. You will get hired in 5 minutes.
I
So
will let
give it
you
a
know
go.
how it goes.
All right, my
I'll
friends.
let
Well, we
you know how
appreciate
it
you guys
goes.
out there
Keep it
being with
posted.
us. Thank you for your love, kindness, and support. Couldn't do it without you. Hope to see you next time for more Constellation. Until then, goodbye.
See ya.
Take care, guys.
Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, Dagan Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman, and is edited by associate producer, Ben Smith. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.